But they're not doing it.
Well, I'll tell you something.
They're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's a disgusting sign.
Thank you so much.
Beyond disgusting. What is the word?
No.
Atrocious?
It's what we got.
No, it's not.
Better.
It's something we
Better.
could fix. It looks disgusting. When you look at the Haver Hill entrance, how pretty that is, and this entrance is beyond atrocious. Give me synonyms. Who's on the paper?
Bad.
Bad is, okay, atrocious, vile, that's better. Vile, atrocious,
You're looking for hyperbolic synonyms.
I can't think of any other, but
Reasonably
the
good.
point is, it is disgusting.
I tried, I really did, and I had.
I take it you don't like it.
No, I'm with her.
Oh, you're so perceptive.
I always said you were.
And you know how many times, years ago, when Sandy Coleman's beautification, they were gonna get a new sign. Then Dawn was gonna get a new
But they
sign.
couldn't because of, you know what? Because of the code. You have to keep the footprint that's there. That's what we're taking.
We're on camera.
I don't want you.
It's not bringing it up.
I'm not bringing it up.
If you like, that'd be nice.
Well, let's keep a smile on throughout the meeting, that would be pleasant.
Good idea. So it starts. He's gonna bring copies in and then we're gonna start. Okay. Okay,
You're on camera.
okay, thank you. Oh, here comes another one. Another one, hi Ed. Here comes another one.
Roger coming in?
What's this? Oh, my top?
Oh, no, we don't have to get, I don't wanna scare you. I don't wanna scare you.
On top?
Be like Che.
That's right. Got a t-shirt there.
You met him many years ago?
You may want that. Or not.
Oh, yeah, good. I'll update this whole committee.
Yeah, why,
As far as I know, it
can't
was.
understand why anybody would want to be like Jay.
And did y'all?
I know.
Yes,
she is. A target. Target.
Is that yours?
Well,
Could you reach?
yeah. We have another.
She's getting some more milk.
Okay.
One of those.
Maybe you can share it just for now.
Be like Che.
Where is that to record? Oh, paper time. Easy. Okay. SZEPESI.
Che.
Wanna sign in on it?
Don't have enough paperwork.
Modern day.
ESI.
Yeah.
Good job. Tough name. Okay. We're going to get started now, everybody, welcome. We're having a few more, everyone please. We're having a few more copies made of the agenda, but we're not gonna have the bylaws completely copied. I think we have enough material in the package you get, that you'll be able to follow everything we do. And if I'm wrong, then we'll go get some more copies. We are tearing down forests every month. Okay. I'm going to start by making a statement. We had an unfortunate incident at our meeting last month. And we got a legal process that we can follow going forward. And so I just want to state what it is, and hopefully we'll never ever have to use it. One, if anyone is disruptive and chooses not to settle down, the chair of any committee has the right to ask for a motion to ban that person from the rest of that meeting. We don't have a right to ban them from the committee or all the meetings, but we do have the right to say that they can't stay for that meeting. If the person then chooses not to settle down, then we have the right to call the sheriff, and that's what we will do. Okay?
I have a question, does that include the president of UCO?
That is a process that covers everyone, thank you. And as I said, let's hope we never have to use it. But we have it, and I, for one, will use it. Okay, and before we go through minutes and other things, we got another petition in today. And it's about officers of a united civic organization shall be elected by a majority vote that allows one vote for each resident owner of a condo unit. No person shall be permitted, thank you very much, shall be permitted more than one vote. And let me state, all the signatures are here, we will have it vetted, as we did with Olga's. Olga's has been vetted. As soon as we finish this process of reviewing the bylaws, and we're nearly done, then we will take these up one at a time. Okay, David?
On the one vote per unit,
Yes.
it has a tremendous legal tail on virtually all of our other documents. The articles and the bylaws. We have hundreds of pages from Rod on the changes that would be required. So if you're gonna take that up, I will produce all of those documents. It's been tried many times before.
Okay. Is your advice that we don't try again?
No,
Okay.
I think it's a very good idea, but you have to recognize that there are many changes that would have to be made.
Okay, excuse me, hold on, does anybody not have a package to work from?
I do.
Okay. I'm sorry, John, okay? And this is for you, and as I said, you guys are all set, okay.
Now, can I say something to David?
You can make one statement and we're gonna move on.
Okay, I'm aware that there are many changes in the documents that have to be made in order to get one vote. But I believe that we should proceed with these changes because I feel it is extremely important to bring in all the residents and give them some power in order to become interested in what happens in UCO.
Okay, point well taken. Marilyn, I said that would be the last one, but I'll give you one more. And then we're done, we're going on.
This isn't the time to discuss it, but since David brought it up, just a little bit of background for those of you that weren't on the committee in the years past. I think the 4 years that I would chair, we talked about it several times. As I recall, and you can correct me over if I'm wrong, the last time it came up, we were told that yes, it would be brought up in the near future, but we were working on things at the time, so we were promised that it would be brought up.
Well, we will bring it up, there's
Right.
no problem with that. There's a petition and it has the adequate number of signatures, we'll vet it like we did your first one, and then we will discuss it, okay? All right, I wanna go over the agenda just for a minute because I wanna make some comments. As I noted, before we do the minutes, we do have a proposal that we got last time on quorum for delegates meeting. It has been vetted, all the signatures are there and correct. And again, when we finish this process, that will be the first one we take up, and then the one we got this morning will be the second one, okay? I want you to look at what you have in your package, so when I start talking to it, you won't be wondering what in the world I'm talking about. We have the minutes, of course, and then we have draft language for some of the articles. Committees, Article 8, that's the toughest one we have today. It's not tough, it's just a lot to look at. You have that one, and then you'll notice that we've got draft language for the bid committee. I went to Don Guanaja as the head of the bid committee, and he gave me just one minor change. And we have a draft to look at. Also for the advisory committee that I took out of the bilateral and adjusted. And then we,
find, by the way.
huh?
I did find, by the way.
Oh, good. And then, Article 9 on amendment, we made some changes. 11, thank you. And then Article 15, housing. That's what you have in this package, that's what we will please follow along with. And then those of you in the committee and a couple others who got packages have an updated copy of the draft of the bylaws if we need to refer to it. Everything we need to talk about today though is in this package you have, okay? And then under new business in the agenda, I wanna bring up setting a timeline for this. When do we wanna set as an objective time, a realistic time frame for getting this done?
2 years ago.
Also, yes, also, who we're gonna use for an attorney. And then what the normal process will be. Comment, David?
No, I'll wait till you get into the discussion on the attorney.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that'll be at new business, and don't let me forget.
We'll be very tired
That's-
by then.
I know, and so will I, so that's why I'm telling you now, so to remind me to get to it. Okay, the minutes, you have the minutes in your package. Do you want me to read them, or? Yes, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can read them.
Yes. Tuesday, May 9th, UCO conference room. I won't read the members and the guests. The chair convened the meeting at 10 a.m. The minutes from the April 19 meeting were reviewed and accepted. After discussion, the committee approved the following edits to the bylaws of United Civic Organization, Inc. Edited language appears in red or strike through below. Page numbers are changeable each week as text is edited. And I didn't include the numbers, so I'll take that out because it's too hard to do, it doesn't make sense. Okay, I'll take out that line. Jackie Carlin moved, David Boaz seconded, and the committee unanimously approved a change from 59 to 100 members required to sign a petition to amend a bylaw. Obviously, the current bylaw is in effect. The for 25, I think, under the 23rd.
25 or 35, I don't remember.
We've gone through this many times, we
Yes.
went back to the document, it's 25.
Right.
So that's all that's needed for now, this is a proposal. Okay. George Patel moved, Jackie Carlin seconded, and the committee voted 8-1 to limit UCO members to signing a petition for one unit only, regardless of the number of units owned. Both votes are reflected in the following language. And you have your minutes in your package if you wanna follow them. Okay, the language is Article 11, amendment. A, method of amendment. Amendments to the UCO bylaws must be proposed by any of the following methods. 1, resolution of the advisory committee, take out the capital A. 2, resolution of the officers committee. 3, a petition signed by 100 UCO members. Only one UCO member per unit may sign the petition. And no member.
Shut it off, that reminded me.
Okay, you done? Is it stopped? Okay. And be careful with this is important language, we spent an hour on it, I think. A petition signed by 100 UCO members. Only one UCO member per unit may sign the petition, and no member may sign for more than one unit, regardless of the number of units owned. Hi, Bob. How are you? Good to see you. Number 4, the petition must be submitted at least 15 business days prior to a meeting of the delegate assembly to allow time for verification of signatures by the UCO record keeper. And then it goes on because we talk about the process it has to go through, but this is just the part we changed. David Saxon moved, David Boaz seconded, and the committee unanimously approved a motion on removal of committee members. Second page of the minutes. Article 8C committees. And the part we changed is C, section C. The president shall create all committees and appoint the chairs with the advice and consent of the officers' committee. The chair of each committee shall populate the committee with the advice and consent of the officers' committee. Number 1, the UCO president may remove a committee member with just cause and the advice and consent of the officers' committee. With a majority vote, the committee may remove a member with just cause and the advice and consent of the officers' committee. Does that ring true? Okay. The committee reviewed legal opinion on conflict of interest for UCO members employed by an entity that does business with UCO. The committee directed the chair to draft language for review of the next meeting. I did that and we will go over it. Because of an improper exchange at the beginning of the meeting, Anita reiterated that a committee chair is responsible under Robert's rules to control disruption at a meeting. She stated that in future meetings, anyone who disturbs a meeting will be asked to leave, and barring that, security will be called. When we made the legal check, we added the part I mentioned at the top of the meeting, that the chair has to call for a motion, or not, I'm sorry. Anyone can make the motion also, that the person be banned for the rest of the meeting before security is called. Anita reported that a petition was received and will be vetted and considered as soon as the bylaw review is completed by this committee. The next meeting will be on June 13th. The meeting was adjourned at 12:25. Okay, all right, let's go back to the agenda. We talked about the vetted proposal. The next thing is to look at the draft language for the bylaws. And the next, yes, David,
I move that the minutes be accepted
thank you.
as written.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Where's- I have to put my minutes hat on. Okay, David moved. I know. And George seconded acceptance of the meeting. The minutes. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move to Article 8, committees that you have in your package. This is the toughest one to go over, the other ones are easy, so we'll get it out of the way. I mentioned last week, and we looked at it briefly, but we didn't have time to go into it, that the bylaws, the base document from the 2013 that we were looking at, started out with standing and special committees, talked about their responsibilities, moved right to appointive and listed all the committees. It never listed any standing committees. So we discussed briefly that we should add standing committees. So there's language here to do that. So I'd like to go over again Article 8 committees, and this is the proposed language for discussion that we can all rip up if we want to. So we start with Section A. The president, with the advice and consent of the officers' committee, shall create all standing and special committees and appoint the chairpersons thereof unless a different requirement is specified in these bylaws. We've never talked about special committees.
Ad hoc.
Does that mean appointive? Does it mean ad hoc? What does it mean? Let's be specific.
To me, it means ad hoc.
Me too.
And usually they're project specific and for a limited time frame.
Right.
Now, you may wanna revisit that, but that's kind of what it means to me.
That's why it isn't specified or specific.
Yeah, it could be anything. Could be anything.
Yes.
I question the wording. The president, with the advice and consent of the officers committee, shall create all standing and special committees. The president isn't creating the standing committees.
This was in the original, if you wanna, we'll discuss it if you wanna change it. What do you recommend?
I don't think that the president is the one that should create the committees. The president is the one that's going to appoint the chairperson. but the president isn't gonna create a committee, am I correct?
Who is?
Yeah.
The chairperson.
The chair.
You want, and you're talking about a new committee, but that's not a standing committee. A standing
let's hold
committee
on.
is what's on the books.
Okay, so let me just make a point, and then we'll go right to Barbara. We're talking about a standing committee, a special committee, an ad hoc committee, and an appointive committee. So far we got 4 going, we haven't defined any of them, so I think we wanna nail that down. Let me go to Barbara first, and then to you.
It's usually the president who finds reason to make an ad hoc committee. He makes it, it might not be part of any committee, it might be something like David said, for a specific reason, and say, we want you, Ruth, to handle this and populate it, but it's a 6-month project, and then it's gone, that committee is gone. It's only an ad hoc committee, it doesn't stay with us, it's only for a purpose.
That's what the president does.
But,
Right.
yes, thank you, and then the other point is, if the president doesn't create the committees, you can't have a bunch of chair people deciding to create committees.
No.
Somebody's got to create them, and it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's not standing committee. He's not doing standing committees, they're coming out of here.
I think they're coming out of the delegate assembly.
A standing committee?
I think it says that. Let's look further down and come back. Hold on. Okay, the president, okay, let's see. Standing committees. Issues presented to the delegate assembly for resolution may be delegated to, this is on the next page, page 2. So I just wanna read it to everybody and make sure you're with me. Standing committees. Issues presented to the delegate assembly for resolution may be delegated to one of the standing committees defined herein. And I say, does it need definition? If the advice of a standing committee is requested by the delegate assembly, the chairperson of the standing committee selected shall conduct a separate meeting to hear the issue presented. And following the committee meeting shall make his or her recommendation on behalf of the standing committee to the full delegate assembly.
The chairman went back to the standing committee though. Issues presented to the delegate assembly for resolution may be delegated to one of the standing committees. They're not starting that standing committee.
It's there.
The standing committee is there. They're saying, the delegate assembly is saying, go back to the XYZ committee and deal with it.
Hold on, yes.
Right below,
Right.
you'll see where it says, list of standing committees as follows. You have a list of the standing committees in the bylaws.
No, I'm proposing this, it's not in the bylaws. Remember, this document is the proposal.
Oh, okay.
There is no list of
It's in the
standing,
other
and that's why
one.
we have to
Okay.
make one.
Where you're gonna find this is in the bilateral agreement.
Yep.
That's where it's gonna lay out the key committees. And that was generated by Yuko.
I wanna make sure, because I didn't see that.
1990.
I could have read right through it, go ahead, David.
Those are the key committees, but let's take an example. I'm trying to get a bunch of clickers. Now, that was ripe for an ad hoc committee. And by the way, managing those clickers may turn the ad hoc committee into a full-time committee, because somebody's gonna have to deal with taking care of them. And there's more to that than meets the eye. This seems very logical to originate, certainly, if not with the president, with the officers of Yuko.
Right,
As someone just said, anybody can't wake up one morning and decide they're chair of a new committee,
yeah,
right?
look,
They might present that
Right,
as an idea,
yeah.
but
And then be appointed as such.
yeah.
I'm looking at the bilateral, I'm looking at Article 5 committees. Each of the following committees shall be appointed by the president pursuant to the bylaws of Yuko and shall consist of no less than 5 persons. Security, cable television, transportation, road, irrigation, insurance, investigation, advisory, budget, infrastructure, beautification, program and services, emergency.
Now, remember the date level,
Right.
the world changes, and I'm sure there have been a few more created since then, but those were the core committees,
So should we have them, this is the question, do they belong
at
in
least.
the bylaws?
And I believe this committee voted to add bid committee to that.
Yes, we did. Okay, so all I'm saying to you is in looking at the language that we had as of 2013, what we are saying now, and I gotta write this down, is that we are going to list, which I think makes sense, list the standing committees in the bilateral. And I'm gonna put those into the bylaws.
Do you wanna add any more?
What I wanna do is ask first, do we want all those? Are they all relevant?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, and then, okay,
sure.
Want to read the beginning again, please?
sure, hold on. The bilateral, okay, hold on.
I don't think I heard any dead ones. I think they're all
Let me
active
go back, that's a
committees.
good idea, Marilyn says to read it, I will.
I mean, there used to be things floating around like the sports committee and
Yeah, there is.
We have those, by the way, we have those in the bylaws now.
There.
And my suggestion is some of those may go, yeah, so let me, well, committees, okay. Security committee,
oh, yeah,
yes.
very active.
Of course, cable.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just confirming, cause we're gonna vote on this.
Yes,
Transportation,
yes,
yes. Road,
yes.
It's kind of rolled into infrastructure.
Yeah.
okay. So call it infrastructure instead,
Yeah, that's done the end.
thank you. Irrigation and pumps,
Yeah, that's real.
Isn't that infrastructure?
Well, that's the question. That's a good question. Cam, you got any thoughts on that?
Infrastructure.
Infrastructure.
Go with infrastructure.
Yeah,
You
covers
don't
a
want
lot.
million to
Might, okay, say infrastructure and list some sub-bullets.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, nobody gets left out.
okay. Insurance, of course. Investigations,
Yeah.
advisory is in here, and we're gonna add the language to the bylaws. Budget, finance, and internal audit. Infrastructure, which we will include, replaces road with everything else that's involved. Okay, beautification,
It's a choppy committee, but I think some new life has been breathed into it, so sure,
programs and services,
yeah.
sure, of course.
Wouldn't it be better if you put beautification with programs and services?
PNS is WP.
Hold on, remember, one at a time,
The
please.
reason I say that is because programs and services, right, they deal with getting, checking everything around, right? Am I correct? That's part of beautification, they're looking at the things around, they can make their reports.
Hold on, Barbara and then David.
Beautification and programs and services checks a lot of the pools and different things that happen, Hastings and that, something has to be repaired in that. They don't check your signs, they don't check your plans, they don't check all that stuff. They don't do that. Beautification zeroes in just on planting, if it's serviceable, they'll get the opinion from the CAM, signs, they'll get opinions. I mean, it really is a detailed committee for just beautification.
Okay, another comment over here and then Dawn.
Well, I can't add much to that except to simply say that PNS is WPRF, period. And we crawl all over the rec facility for the benefit of the residents to make sure things are clean and in good state of maintenance. So I don't think you wanna cross those over. It's up to
Okay,
you.
Matt?
No,
Okay, Don,
Yeah, Bob, beautification deals almost strictly with Yuko property, where programs and services deals with recreational property, Eva's World. If you were to marry up two committees, I would say that programs and services belongs more with operations. Those are the two committees that deal with the recreational facilities.
Thank you. Anyone else, Stuart?
The only aspect of programs and services that touch on the philosophy of beautification is to make sure that the area around the pools, for example, clean and the landscaping is taken care of. And that still goes with programs and services. That's where they're reported to in that particular committee. Whereas beautification is, as what is said, UCO property and has very specific goals different than the other committee. So hopefully the beautification committee will do a job coming up, and make the recommendations, and we could see its worth down the line.
Did you have a question?
No, I just wanna go back to this.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have security down there?
Yes.
I just checking.
Yes, it's there. I think it's the first, is it the first one?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Early on.
Okay, I guess I could get a copy of this and you, if you wanted to go over the whole thing. I think if we have time, I'd like to come back to it. If not, I'll put it in a draft for you and we can nail it down next time. Is that okay? Cause I really wanna cover what we've got.
And
Okay.
additions, you want some additions to
Yes,
those committees.
yes. In
Bids
fact,
and
thank
take
you.
out what you don't want.
Right, now where's my agenda? Thank you. I have too much stuff here. Actually, I need mine. Here it is.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Jackie. I do have it, thank you. We are adding advisory and bid is what we are advising, adding. Okay, those are the only two, and if we want more, we can do that, yes.
As I said, and you just mentioned, that this committee voted to add bid. But somewhere a little further down the line, I'd like to see the bid committee's mission modified to include the requirement for the members to do research.
I think it says it, doesn't it, in the draft?
I don't know
It never
what,
said it in the original mission,
It
you're
did?
right. It did not.
No.
You're right.
We'll look at the draft and see if it's enough. That was a good point, you mentioned that before, and I think I included something about it, it may not be enough, but we're gonna get to that in a few minutes. So we'll look at that, okay.
I'd like to go back to membership back on C, because we went on to the committees and so forth.
Sure.
The president
Okay, remind me of that.
shall appoint the chair of all committees. Here we said, with the advice and consent of the officers committee, shall create committees. And the president, we agreed, does not create a committee, but he does.
No,
He
in the
appointed the chair.
bilateral, it says the president creates the committees, they
But
have
he
to be
does,
consistent.
we've never had the president create a committee that I can recall.
Who
And
does
what-
that?
You could, then you could create any committee you want?
That's right.
Yeah, it's in the bilateral,
The president.
it's in the
I don't
bilateral. Oh, okay, but
No, but we
But-
can change the bylaws.
I see,
The
It's not-
bylaws are what governs us.
okay.
it's not an unchecked responsibility. Remember, appointing the chair with advice and consent, right?
Oh, I agree with appointing the chair, definitely.
See, I mean, somebody's got to wake up one morning and anyone might, and say, we need a committee to do this. It may not always be me, but somebody's got to have the responsibility and authority to actually administratively make it happen.
Or at least suggest it.
Yeah,
Right,
of
hold on a
course.
second, yes,
We passed over B. I wanted to suggest a very minor change here.
on the
Where the
LPM.
last,
Yeah.
it says, committees thus formed may seek advice from whoever they desire. I think just add the word information and advice. Just put in the word information.
Okay, okay. Is everybody comfortable with that?
Uh, maybe somewhere the words consult a lot of the projects need professional input. Engineers.
Yeah.
Lawyers,
They consult with,
and that's a big deal.
Yeah, they consult
they
with or
consult with,
Yes, exactly.
they consult with, and that covers what you're saying too.
And you don't have to say seek advice, you don't want that, you
No,
just
they
make
consult
That's fine.
with-
Right. May consult with whomever they desire, you're
I'm sorry,
comfortable.
what is it?
The committees thus formed may consult with whomever they desire. And that includes information and advice, so we don't have to say it.
Right.
Okay with that?
Okay.
Okay, let's decide. We have standing, we have special, we have ad hoc, and we have appointive.
What's the difference between special and ad hoc?
Yeah,
For ad hoc.
I prefer
I
ad hoc.
agree with what was just said.
okay,
Special and
good,
ad hoc sound the same.
Standing
Yes.
and ad hoc.
right,
It would appear to me that to populate a committee, they're all appointed,
right,
right?
right.
Committee
Okay, so we
members
take
don't leap full grown from the brow of Zeus, you know?
Maybe they do, I had a Zeus virus on my computer this week, so I know all about Zeus. Okay, good, I'm glad we have this. Standing, ad hoc, and appointed,
I thought you were gonna
Okay.
get rid of ad hoc.
huh?
I thought that you said get rid of ad
No,
hoc.
keep ad hoc and get
No.
rid of.
Oh, keep ad hoc,
And
okay, get rid of special, okay.
This is a temporary thing. We got rid of
Yeah,
special.
just don't.
Betty, did you have a comment?
No, I'm just
Agreeing?
it's a temporary thing, an ad hoc committee, it's not,
Yes.
it's not an
Right.
ongoing permanent forever.
Right.
Right, okay, very good.
Right.
And we agree, this is the next part, on responsibilities. Do we agree, what, we have enough, I'm Bob.
Why not just call it special / ad hoc? That would solve that issue.
No.
Yeah,
No.
you know what,
It's really,
let's pick one,
Let's
it's just simpler, okay.
Before we go on, are we not taking out some committees that,
Standing and ad hoc.
no,
We-
for
we
going
will
on?
next, that'll be
No, we're
next.
not up to that yet,
Yeah,
okay, go.
Could we just go, if we went in order, then as we came to a committee
That's what she's
that
trying
you
to
felt
do.
was not
Yeah, okay.
relevant,
That's
we
what
could
you're
take it
trying
out,
to do.
then
Fair
that way
enough.
we would be
Yeah.
sequential.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going back to, where am I, okay, I got it,
Responsibilities, I
okay.
think.
D.
D, responsibilities,
Got it.
back of the first page right there.
Okay,
Before you go to D, down the bottom, you
yeah,
have optional wording. I personally think the 3 sounds better.
What do you,
oh, yes, I
Oh.
wanted to make a point.
Yeah.
Oh, 3.
In the minutes, you'll see under committees, the language was positive. The UCO president may
Second page
remove a
one.
committee member, with a majority vote, the committee may remove. We had talked about, should we say instead, no committee member may be discharged without just cause and the advice and consent of the officers committee. We can use that language, it then kind of messes up what we say about, with a majority vote, the
But
committee.
it really sounds more professional.
Well, here's something I thought we could do. They're both legal. We could say that statement, the committee may no committee member may be discharged. Put it at the end of the paragraph in C. See where I am? You see where C is?
yeah,
Yep.
Put that sentence, no.
Where are you?
Committee member,
she's on the regular pages.
Oh,
Page
It's on
two.
page 1 of
Page
the,
one,
of the.
bottom of the page.
Oh, one.
Just see.
No, you were right,
No committee member may be discharged without just cause, and put that after C, the first,
Yeah,
does everybody have it? Do we know where we are?
yeah,
no.
yeah.
you're at the beginning of the
Tell the
meeting,
page.
Page 1.
It's on top of the minutes.
at the beginning of the meeting, you announced a legal opinion, essentially a policy,
No, it's not.
that
It's,
dealt with a committee
page
member
one.
who flips
I
out.
have a clue what
Um,
they are.
And
I'll show you.
do you wanna include that language in this clause that says
The committee member can be discharged for the meeting only by motion, do you
Very
want?
bottom of the page.
That's a good point. I mean, are we comfortable enough with the legality of it to include it in the bylaws?
Came from a lawyer, right?
Yes.
And specify that it's for the duration of the meeting only and only by motion and second and voting of the
Let's
committee.
get everybody on the same page here, I have no idea what.
All right, okay.
Nick Turnover.
I'm on draft language for committees. Is everybody there? I'm gonna go back to David in a minute. Everybody we're on, and we're at the bottom of the page.
Right.
Stuart.
Page.
Hey,
Couple
it's-
of the
it's-
fifth page, I don't know what Dave,
Just
the
have
direction Dave was going, cause he was raising his hand as a comment also. Just cause has always bothered me,
Fuzzy.
I agree.
and
It's either on, it's on the.
but I would like it that, is it verbal or written? I think that a person who's going to be discharged from a committee should receive a written reason as to why.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that there are two kinds of just cause. One is if at a meeting and somebody's disruptive and they refuse to allow the committee to continue their work because of their attitude, they could be asked to be removed, but only for that particular meeting. That was one thing. The other is just cause for removal completely and never come back to that committee. You're no longer on it. So there are two different distinctions here. But the term just cause, my experience has been that sometimes, and this is over the years, people are thrown out for capricious and arbitrary reasons and without really much justification. And that's really very hurtful, and I don't wanna see that happen. If a person is incapable and not doing the job well, or they are just on a committee because they have nothing else to do and make no contribution, that's a reason for asking them to leave. But to kick somebody off because of whatever reason, and there could be many, I think is a little bit unfair, and I just wanted to make sure that this is my particular point of view, and I think it has to be considered when you deal with all of this.
I think everybody would agree with you. The question is, what is just cause?
That's
the tar baby.
Yeah.
You will get a group of intelligent people together and you will argue a point as to just cause for hours.
Yeah.
And you won't agree. I just wanna point out, the legal authority, which I don't think we have built into the bylaws, on removal of someone for a single meeting comes right out of Robert's rules. And the requisite need to maintain order. All right, and as you recall, I actually used that provision at delegate assembly. We had a little incident there, Nazi salutes and near fistfights. And that was approximate one-time thing. It's a lot more difficult to eliminate a resident unit owner from a meeting permanently, almost impossible. But the other side is, I heard removal forever. That is not contemplated in American justice. There's always the option for rehabilitation and readmission. I don't think you'll ever legally get away with removing someone, an owner, from a committee meeting forever.
Yeah, and Stuart, the advice we got was to ban for that meeting only.
Right,
That was the legal.
Because the term just cause,
Tough.
I don't want that person in just cause I don't want him in. I mean, that to me,
Just
just doesn't
because.
sound right.
That's just
Okay.
because.
Okay, I'm gonna go, wait a minute, so just so I know, here, and there. So who did I just say?
You said in here, I think.
Marcia,
Well, isn't it interesting that it's this committee that did just that?
Just that.
The committee chair was dismissed, Marilyn, I, and Olga were dismissed. And it was this committee that did it, you're making rules when it happened at this committee.
okay, and
Well,
we
we
are
can change it.
making,
That's something that maybe should be discussed, because it's
to rectify.
okay, hold on,
correctly,
thank you, but let me just make a comment.
Okay.
We are talking about those rules for the revision of the bylaws. We're not, they don't exist now.
This is to correct what
This is,
happened.
yes, yes. So thank you for that. And then I said I would go to Don, and then you, Jackie, right? And then Bob again?
I had one thing, but now I have two things. Sorry.
It's okay.
May I suggest the substitution of the word just with appropriate or sufficient? Or remove the word just altogether and just cause, leave it cause.
You know, I looked at a lot of legal documents. And the modern kind of way to do it is cause,
Just
with cause. That's the way it's done, but people were uncomfortable with it. You know, so I don't know what you think,
the other
but
thing-
we have to make that decision.
It would still be the same thing going over because it's semantics.
Right, well, there were people at the table that don't like the word, so I'm coming up with a different word.
Yeah.
Your word, so the word you're
He's saying
proposing,
either get rid of it or
Sufficient,
sufficient.
appropriate, or elimination of the word
Just the
altogether.
word, just cause,
Lisa,
instead of just cause.
tomato, yeah,
Jackie
plain.
and then Bob, and then we'll come back, yes.
Any of those words to me are very vague.
Right.
I agree with Stuart, the problem is it's a vague word. I wonder if we can list, if it's possible, to list, what is just cause, what do we mean? Disruptive, do we mean if the person disagrees with the chair? Or the chair disagrees, it's so vague, so I'm just proposing, I don't know if it's possible, to list some reasons, and I certainly agree that if you are dismissed from a committee, you should get a letter stating why. That's all I have to say.
I think it's really tough to get a comprehensive list,
I know, but I'm suggesting.
Pause.
you know?
It's so subjective. No, but there has to be a reason. The president can't just say, I don't want you on the committee, it's happened before. That's why.
With the word
It doesn't have to
cause
say
is there,
just
hold
cause,
on,
but
we're
it's
missing, I
with
gotta go,
cause.
I gotta go,
No, it's okay.
go ahead, Samantha, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry,
No, finish
I
what you're saying.
apologize.
It's
Finish what
okay.
you're saying.
He said, he gives you the floor.
thank you. No, what I'm saying is that there has to be something. You can't just leave it blank.
That's what I mean.
And just cause unfortunately can't be identified any more than any other word. I mean, as I said before, you know, we're playing semantics here, and I
We
think
are.
we're wasting time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Who was next? Thank you, Bob.
First of all, for the term just cause, you'd have to have a list of what are the just causes, which is going to be extensive. You're gonna have to get a committee just for that.
You're right.
Now, I would also suggest, rather than trying to bar someone permanently, which is not a good idea, how about suspension? Start out with a month suspension. Go from a month, go to 3, from 3, go to a year.
Oh, boy. I don't know, let's think about
In
that.
other words, 3 strikes, you're out for the year.
Let me just suggest something. All of the legal documents I looked at had cause. Some had just cause, none of them specified. Because I think there's an understanding that it's a rabbit hole. Once you go down, Jean, and then
It is ridiculous going around with this because the purpose is to maintain order and get the purpose of your meeting ended, accomplished, whatever.
okay, we have Marcia and then David and Barbara.
I think at most meetings, anyone who's disruptive is always asked to leave, so I think that certainly should be something if the person is disruptive.
Okay,
And continues to be disruptive.
okay, fair enough. Yes,
What if we got rid of the word cause and said, for reasons agreed upon by a majority of the committee?
Vague again.
well, see, this is interesting. The two that can discharge a committee member are the president and the committee itself, with a majority vote. So there would have to be agreement of what the cause is for the committee to do it. But who decides why the president can discharge somebody.
Well, I can't without concurrence.
The advice and
That's the
consent
advice and
of the
consent.
officers committee, I think
Right.
we're covered. I do. David and then Bob.
It's just the word just that bothers me, it's with cause. Obviously, you're not gonna have unjust cause,
Right.
it's cause. So the word just is just unnecessary.
Dave,
That's the easiest.
I totally agree with what you just said, and I was gonna say the exact same thing.
And then you're right.
The word just, alright, basically is interpretive to whoever's in charge.
Correct.
At that particular meeting. If it's just to you, it may be just to you, but it may not be just to everyone else. Everyone else may be thinking, hey, they got a good thing, you know, a good reason for what they're saying. They may be getting a little carried away, but it's still a good
Right.
reason.
I think you're right. I think the protection is that if the UCO president makes a decision, he has to have the officers committee. If the committee makes the decision, they have to have a majority vote.
And he's not gonna have unjust cause, he's gonna have cause.
It should just cause.
It's interpretation again.
I'm sorry, Olga.
I think that the word just, if it's
Hold on.
interpreted, it means reasonable cause. Just and reasonable are basically the same thing.
Right. I think that, but having looked at, recent documents over the last few years, the decision has been to remove just as implied. I'm just raising that.
That's
We'll
what I'm
make that
saying.
decision when we vote. I've got Stuart, did I have anybody else? Okay, Stuart, and then who else?
Philosophically, my attitude is that anybody that wants to be on a committee is doing so not because of any hidden agenda, but wants to go ahead and make something better than it is already. And so the idea of being in a committee, if your ideas or approach may not be satisfactory or acceptable, or people will feel uncomfortable with that, doesn't mean that you're not being positive. The idea of kicking somebody off a just cause and everything else, I think that if a person accepts the idea, you are now part of the committee, that your attitude has to be positive. You don't have to agree with, you could be in the minority. You're entitled to your opinion. And sometimes the minority becomes the majority in a democracy. So I just feel with what we have is a difficulty getting people to become part of a committee anyway. And so to have that, I'm not saying that a person shouldn't be kicked off because of a lot of things that they do that just totally disrupt and you cannot move forward. But if we are selective, people who really want to do a good job, I think we'd never really have to deal with that issue. I know it has to be there.
It's going to be rare, you're right, I agree with that, very rare. And in the case of this committee, we'll never see it again. Assumption.
Also, comment was just made at this meeting that certain persons were kicked off this committee. That's not the way I understand it as happening. Each one of these committees are dissolved and reformed each year, once per year. And that's what I think happened in the case that was commented on.
Yeah, let's,
No, it didn't happen.
And I think that no committee member should have the expectation that they're going to be entitled to the seat at the next year.
Point well taken.
The-
I don't wanna talk about
About
this
what
anymore.
happened, let's
No,
not,
yeah,
Because
try
we
it.
have
let's go
an
on.
hour left.
Yes, let's go
Yeah,
on.
Okay.
let's go on.
Leave
I think you
cause.
should straighten
Let's
it
vote
on
on
out,
cause.
because that is not correct. That's
Okay,
not
take
what
a vote on
happened.
cause.
The chair was dismissed and so were three
Okay,
people
it
from this
wasn't-
committee.
You're not
Okay.
I wanna say.
No, you're not.
And I think.
It was true, oh,
I
okay.
don't think we need to
Stand corrected.
discuss it.
It's not
The
correct.
assumption is it was done with cause. I accept that.
I think the word just belongs there,
I make that motion.
because
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I was gonna
Because-
take it out.
a person can be discharged for cause or be, and we may not think that that cause is enough to dismiss them. So there could be cause, but it could be such a type that the attitude is, well, that's not such a reason, a good enough reason to dismissal. I think the word just belongs in there.
Let me just make one comment, then I'm gonna go around and then I'm gonna stop it and we'll vote.
Let's vote.
The assumption is that if somebody makes a recommendation that is not just, it's gonna get caught. Somebody in the committee, you're not gonna have 12 people in a
Right.
committee
It's a good decision.
agree
Right.
that it was just if it isn't just. And the same thing is true, you're not gonna have all the officers agree that it was just if it's not. So I think there's a reason that lawyers have removed the term. And I can't vote, so I'm not going to, and I won't say another word. It will
That's why I suggested taking it out.
Make the motion.
I made the
David,
motion.
and then we're gonna have a motion. Go ahead.
Great discussion on this, but I have to agree that to take the word just out, because there is a check and balance on both of these. If it's the president, it has to go to the officers committee. If it's from a committee, it has to go to the committee members. I think we just go with cause. I'm not a lawyer, don't pretend to be. I don't play one on TV either.
Just
Do
one
we
other
have-
observation.
Hold on, do we have the attendance sheet? I think there's a roll sheet under there.
It's right here.
On the sign-in sheet.
I don't see one though. Let me see. No, okay, so I'm gonna make one up. Okay,
Just one other observation and then we can, I
Just
don't
one?
wanna belabor it.
Committee members up here.
There really has to be a reasonable process, and what I mean is if somebody is doing something, the committee chairman could call that person aside and have a little discussion with them, and that could resolve the problem. To try to get somebody kicked off or kick somebody off a committee without at least talking to them and discussing it, the person that may be committing an infraction that makes it difficult for everybody else may not realize that what they're doing is somewhat inappropriate. And so you have to talk to them first, just like a bad child, you know, you're gonna slap them in the wrist before you hit them in the ass. You know what I mean? That's,
do we have another
That's it.
comment?
Right here.
Yes.
I just wanna say, you know, you have a lot of committees, and the chairs populate the committees. Sometimes we pick someone who's very good to be a chair because they're very knowledgeable, but they don't have the sense of saying to you when you apply to the committee, oh, I don't think this is a good committee for you, you should apply to another committee. I have seen this happen on the bid committee, like David said, where you should be doing research and that, and some people can't even use a computer. Well, they shouldn't be on a committee to do something if they're not able to. And I think you have to preface that with the chair to tell them, don't just let anybody come on the committee. Get people who are gonna be useful and participate. Because we do have people who just go on committees, and that's not a good idea. I'm just saying, so the chairs
Good
should be really told this strongly.
Right, and hopefully the chairs know it
Hopefully,
to start with.
yes.
Can I have a motion, please?
Yeah.
David,
I'd like to move that we remove the word just from this line.
Second.
remove just from just cause, and
Are
that
we gonna
is,
use the optional wording? The no committee member? Which one are we using?
we're going to use the optional wording at the end of the sentence, and then clarify it with 1 and 2.
Okay.
Okay, is that what we agreed?
Yep.
Does anybody want me to read it? Are you okay? Okay. But the only motion we have right now is to remove just for just cause in Article 8,
C,
8C.
Yeah.
Okay,
8C2.
Okay,
oh, thank you, 8C2.
Anita, you voting?
No, Nita can't vote, only to break a tie.
Ruth?
Oh,
Thank you.
yes.
Jackie?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Wait, that was David Saxon, by the way.
It was.
Okay, Bob Marshall?
Yes.
David Boaz?
Yes.
Stu Richland?
yes,
David Israel?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, yes. Thank you. Okay, good comments.
Maybe we should have a report card like we give to kids, works well with others.
Yeah.
Let them know how we feel, and maybe that'll be a wake-up call to disrupt the person, I don't know.
Did I miss anyone?
Just kidding, kidding.
Anybody who's a member
That's
that
funny.
can vote?
I thought, I didn't hear Jackie or Barbara.
I said yes,
Yeah.
Barbara didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Barbara, you haven't- I didn't hear Barbara, you didn't call
Not
Barbara.
Not yet, she asked me.
Oh, okay. No,
When we
I
go
said
further
yes,
in
they
this, I'll
called
tell you
Barbara.
why.
Barbara, did you vote?
They called me,
No,
I said yes.
Marilyn, you said no?
I said yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay,
Everybody said, everybody
okay,
said.
thank you.
It was anonymous.
Thank you.
Anonymous.
And I'll keep that,
I would say no.
under that attendance, you just keep it under.
Yeah,
We
so
need to
careful.
move on.
Okay, all right, that part is good.
Oh,
Let's,
God.
let's turn to the next page, page 2 of that section on committees, Article 8. Are we all on the same page? Everybody got it? Know where we are? I know it's tricky. Huh? Okay. I added under D, and actually Marilyn Pomerantz made a reference to this, and I added, these are the responsibilities of the committee.
Which page are you on?
Page 2 on the red part.
On this.
And actually, it may be in the wrong place, it may,
No, it's not
it may
that,
go.
probably it's that.
Responsibilities at the top of the page.
Yeah.
It's in red. It may go under C, the one that we just did, but let's look at the language.
Do you have a new packet, one more extra?
It's not a packet, it
This
just
is what
needs
it
this
looks like.
part.
I know, I don't think he has it.
Agenda
I don't
The
think he-
agenda part, you don't have the agenda
Oh.
part, David?
Oh, I don't think that's, oh, here, it's still on the agenda part?
Yeah,
Okay,
He doesn't have one?
yeah, I
It's still on
think
the
they do.
agenda part.
I think he does.
Okay.
But then it's also
That's it
here.
on your left-hand side, I think.
Thank
That's
you.
it.
No, I think it's.
Page
Is there
2.
another
Two at the bottom.
Okay.
No, one,
I don't have
One
any
was
D
more.
at the top of the page, two at the bottom.
No,
Anybody
you don't
share
have it.
the agenda?
There it is, right? He's got it?
No, I have it, that's mine.
What's this?
I have one
That's
segment.
minutes, but that's.
I have another
that's the back.
agenda.
Here's an agenda, Dave.
Oh, it's on the back of the agenda?
Yeah, the second page of the
Second
agenda.
page of the
Okay, you have the
agenda.
agenda?
Second page.
Oh, you got it?
But it's also here. Well, go to the
I gave
second
them
page.
all.
That's it.
That's not the agenda, that's
It's
the,
on the,
that's the draft language for committees.
yeah, let me show you so
That's
we
the
know.
draft language.
We have the agenda, you turn the page, and you have the
That's
minutes.
different.
The next page after that is draft language for committees,
That's what it is.
and that's where we are.
Oh, there's so many page one, I beg your pardon.
Okay, and now we're on page 2.
I
You
got it,
didn't get that far.
Confuse you further.
thank you.
Committee members must attend a minimum of 9 meetings in a year unless they notify the chair of the reason for non-attendance. If this requirement is not met, the members will be ineligible for reappointment to the committee in the following year. We had discussed this many times. Do you want this in there? Huh? It came up many times, that's why I put it in. I have no preference. Let me, who on the committee, David and then David and anybody else.
George.
George, geez, thank you.
I raised my hand first. Gee whiz.
Sorry. David, will
Gentleman
you,
first.
David,
Is that
will
what
you
it is,
give
Barbara?
her the floor, cause she raised her hand first and then I'll
No,
come to
no,
you.
no.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, let's say that a person misses 5 meetings in the first year of
Oh,
their.
5 meetings.
Yeah, they missed 5 meetings.
That's a lot.
But in the second year, they made 10 meetings or 12 meetings. The point is that they're elected for 2 years. So you gotta look at it,
Committees are only one.
Committees are
year.
1 year,
You're
1 year,
For 1 year.
1 year term.
1 year only.
Listen, yeah,
You're thinking of the
Oh,
board.
yeah, yeah, I don't blame you.
Different.
Yes, you may have the floor, then
Strike all.
Marilyn and Martha.
strike all that.
Thank you.
Okay, in the past, we had excellent members who would, I can't say they were snowbirds, but would go up north for a vacation. And it could be 3 or 4 months, let's say even it was 3 months. And then one meeting she was at, does that mean, well, we're not
Yeah.
gonna have her on the committee anymore when she was an excellent contributing member?
Sick as-
I really
That's an
think it's
excuse.
unfair.
Sick is an
I was
excuse.
out sick for 2 meetings. does that mean, well, then I can
No,
never miss
sickness
another
is-
meeting
No, this
because I was
says-
in the hospital?
No,
Oh, if I call and tell you I'm sick.
unless they notify the chair of the reason.
But that's like saying, don't even bother with this thing, because if I'm gonna be out,
Right.
I'm gonna call you, if you're gonna be out, you're gonna call you. So to me, it's just a waste of 4 months.
Okay, who was next, Barb? Donald.
It
Oh,
sounds like,
no, I'm sorry,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
Committee members first.
yeah,
Right.
right, Donald.
it's okay,
Donald's not.
you wanna
I
be?
thought he was.
I'm not a committee member,
Oh,
but
I know,
I'll be
so
quick.
who, David, and then the non-committee members.
I thought I heard language in there that if you miss 3 meetings in this year, you can't reapply next year.
That's
Right.
right, that's what it says.
And I don't know as that's a very good idea.
I
Okay,
don't think so.
I can understand removal from the committee for that year. But to say you can't ever be put on that committee again, which is almost what you're saying you cannot be appointed next year.
right. I wanna look at what we say about the executive board, because we put language like
Right.
this in for them.
I think it's 5 meetings, but it's not held.
Hold on.
The executive would be a zoning board.
It's not enforced,
Okay, well,
thank
let's
you.
just make sure
Yeah.
where we put it.
Thank
It's the same thing, I think.
Yeah, the language is in there, but for something else. Where am I going? I'm going, I'll go to to Marcia, then I'll go there, and then I'll go to Barbara.
I think it's a good idea to have
Oh, well,
something as far as saying if they miss a certain amount of meetings. But I think you also have to say with good reason or with cause. If it's a good reason or good cause, if you're sick, if you're, if something happens, and if you notify, I think that's different. So it
Yeah.
depends on the situation, I think.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree with that too.
I don't.
It says,
It wasn't out.
unless they notify the chair of the reason. It's pretty strict. I mean, I should be able to, I wonder if people should be able to say, look, I can't make it. I'm sorry. I just can't make it. Maybe it's personal and you don't wanna
Right.
tell somebody. Barbara, finally, no, and then Marilyn, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, you asked me, I wanted to be on this committee, and the reason I said I have to wait and see what's gonna happen, because if you put in something that says 3 months, I go on vacation. This year, I happen to be going away for 3 months. So therefore, how could I make a commitment to this committee? Yes, because of David, I could call in, and I could be just as effective as anybody else on this committee, plus being able to watch what's being said on the blog or on 95, you also know what's going on. But to participate, you should be able to call in, which you can here. So I don't understand.
Only one can do that though.
What?
Only one can call in because of the telephone
Well, that's the
system.
only problem,
Well,
because
that's a
only
big
one, you don't
problem.
have what you call,
The facility to do.
to call in more than one person.
Let me go to Marilyn, who's
Unlike
been
a
waiting a long
conference
time.
call.
Okay,
I'm
yes,
sorry,
that's
conference
right.
call.
That's right. Marilyn,
Alright, you had mentioned that I had said this, but I had originally said 3 meetings, not 9 meetings. Because there are people,
okay.
there is someone on the executive board who has missed
That's separate.
over 3 meetings already, does not appear, does not go to the meetings. And I mean, I don't think that's fair.
So you meant this in reference to executive board?
This is
Yes,
committees.
that's basically.
I will go look, I think I put it in there, we're gonna go back right after this and see what's there. Are we saying we don't want this for committees, folks?
Yes,
Do we just wanna get rid of it
yes,
for committees?
yes.
Yeah, sorry, it sounds like if you're restricting a person from membership in a committee for the following year, you're putting a restriction on the president of UCO, who the bylaws say
We've
have,
already said that.
right?
No, go ahead, what?
Uh,
Finish.
You're putting handcuffs on the president that weren't there originally, so I think there's other parts of the bylaws that you'd have to deal with to make this work.
Olga, I'm just gonna go around to get you, okay?
However you word this, what you have to do is eliminate a person who joins a committee and then just doesn't show up, or maybe shows up 1 or 2 times.
That's right.
That's what you have to eliminate. So however you word it, think in terms of that.
Okay, let me raise a question, just with your having said that. The committee can remove a person.
That's what it is.
Can it fall under, can we just assume that if somebody's not showing, no, you can't, cause people keep going and going.
Hold on. Marilyn brought up a point. She's really referring and focusing on the executive board. Never forget that the executive board members are elected.
They're elected.
Right,
Doesn't
that's
have
the
to
difference.
be people.
There's only one way to remove that person,
Vote
by
for them.
formal recall.
Right,
The people, the only people who can remove you are the people that sent you there.
right.
And this bylaw is going to run into some legal challenge. I'm
Okay.
sure Rod is gonna choke on it. But
Okay.
I don't know, I just
Now,
don't.
let's look at, you know what, I don't see it in here, I know we discussed it. It's on, if you have the bylaws that I gave you, it's on page 18. So not all of you have it, I'm sorry. Yep, it's Article 6,
Yeah.
Doesn't say anything.
it's not in there.
No, I've read it 3 times and it doesn't say
I,
anything.
excuse
And
me,
I'm positive
I
it
think you
was in
took
the
it out,
past.
I think it was taken out because it was illegal, because they are elected, and you're not allowed to do
Okay.
that.
That's right, you did.
That's why you took it out.
Okay,
I'm sure.
good, so I think we should take it out of this,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna, alright, I'm going, I said, which way am I
You
going?
were going that way, around, Bob's next.
Thank you.
So you're
Who's on
basically
first?
saying if a person's elected, they can't be removed from a committee?
Right, no.
Well, the committee,
No,
the
board.
committee,
Elected.
no, that's right.
Executive board.
That's right.
There's a point I do wanna bring up is, it's not just executive board members that if they don't show up to a committee, it should also be the vice presidents that are in charge of those committees. They should also be there.
Anybody elected, you cannot do that to, because they're voted by the people, Bob, and can only be removed by
Right.
recall by the people.
But they can be removed from the committee.
Something else.
That's.
If a person doesn't show up to a committee.
Well, that's what you're discussing.
Right, then the president should be allowed to remove them from that committee.
Right, cause a committee member isn't elected, right, go
That's
ahead.
where you were going.
But sometimes,
I'm sorry.
but sometimes these people are appointed. They're not always elected, and then maybe it's approved by the delegate assembly, so that's a different issue.
It really,
You know, so it's a whole different situation.
Yeah,
I haven't had a chance,
Go
to- but she
go ahead.
did speak on this, may I speak before Barbara?
well, actually,
Go ahead,
ask
let
her.
her speak first.
Okay. I'm gonna push us pretty fast after this,
Very quickly,
after these two.
it was stated that when somebody, I believe it was stated that when someone is away for 3 months, they could call in. Then they was stated that only one person could call in at a time. Therefore, it's not fair.
Right.
It's not fair. So, with due respect to anybody who goes away for 3 months or 6 months, maybe they shouldn't be on a committee, they should be an ad hoc member. Because if everybody could call in, I know I'm on committees with Brandeis that everybody has, I hate it. You know, they have their
Team
iPad and everybody's
yeah.
talking to an
It's a conference
iPad,
call.
when a conference here. So, I think we should consider that, maybe make them an ad hoc member
Or
or something.
adjunct member.
Adjunct member, yeah. And, cause it's not fair if only one person can call in.
Okay,
my
Barbara, did
opinion.
you have something else?
Yeah, I did.
And then I'll go to David
Uh,
and Stuart.
I think that you can't mix up the executive board and committee
No.
members.
Right.
That's
It's
first of all.
easy to do, but we're not going to.
One is elected, one is not. These are volunteers. Now, when a volunteer, if this is the rule, then you don't join. Then you just don't join. That's it. But I don't think that's fair because there, in this community we live in, 1/3 is here in the summer and 2/3 are gone. And even if you're here all year, you go away on vacation. What if it just so happens you take a week in January or a week here and it happens to be on the day that this committee meets? Is that fair? I don't think so.
David next and then Don.
we
Okay,
don't wanna
Stuart, were you next?
I'll wait until you
Go ahead.
we don't wanna be held hostage by technical issues.
Yeah.
We will have this thing working, either conference call, standard plain old telephone system, or conference call Skype. We'll have one or the other. And it's just a matter of working out some glitches.
Alright, that's fair.
And I would be comfortable with probably up to at least 3 simultaneously.
Does anybody have anything urgent?
That's good.
Stuart and then you.
Just a couple of one observation anyway. There are two types of committees. There are the committee that we have here, and then there's the elective committee. The person has been elected to a committee and is not showing up, then I think that the president of that committee or the chairman of that committee could call the person up and say, is there something wrong? You know, you've been elected, this is your responsibility. If you feel you cannot live up to your obligation, please resign and we'll get somebody else.
Yeah.
That kind of resolves, or at least you know why.
Right.
For a committee like this, if a person is not showing up, then it's the chairman's responsibility. Look, we've had 5 meetings, you haven't shown up. Is there something we should know? Because we have other people who would like to take your place.
Good point.
And then you just do it gentlemanly rather than,
One
you know,
last
twisting
comment, and
somebody's
then
arm.
unless you have one
I
too.
do, there,
Oh, wait a minute, David
Okay.
first, then you,
Right.
and then a vote.
Marcia made a point that it's not quite right. If I appoint someone to executive board, keep this in mind, that has to be ratified by delegate assembly. How is that differing from a formal election? The same people
No different.
who vote in a formal election are ratifying or not that appointment. So believe it or not, even though I appointed that person, the way it got ratified means it has to be removed, that person has to be removed by recall.
It's still an election.
That's true, except the person we're thinking of, I think it never got ratified by the DA because there was problems, there was no quorum, and something happened, and it never got ratified, I don't wanna mention names. And that's the reason.
Okay, okay, Don, and then I'm done.
yeah, there's no technological limit to how many people can be here electronically. Each one of these can represent another person, but functionally, it would make the meeting chaos.
It would be chaotic.
Even when there's one, sometimes
And the
it'll.
sound is not
Ridiculous.
wonderful.
So
Yeah.
I think it would be prudent to set a limit, and 3 sounds about right.
Okay, all right, we'll wait though, do we have to do that? I mean, do we have to do it for the bylaws? I don't think so.
No.
We can set, I don't think we need to do that.
Set a number of people who can conference
No,
call?
you don't have
No,
to do
cause
that.
technology will change it in 6 months
Right.
anyway. I like a motion on, what do I want a motion on? Hold on.
Not approved,
Minimum
Um,
of 9.
to eliminate.
You know what, we don't need a motion
No, we
because
don't, because
this
we
was
just-
only a recommendation.
So just cross it
Scratch
out.
it.
Okay, we don't need it,
Cross
okay,
Keep
next.
forcing at number 4?
On standing committees, and do we need to prioritize them? Do you want me to alphabetize them?
Yes, that would be easy.
Thank you, alphabetize. Does everybody agree with that? Some of them are more important than others, but or do you want them to be consistent with the bilateral?
That sounds like a good idea.
I think so too.
Angel's on the head of a pin.
Just a
Okay.
little consistency from one to the other.
Yeah.
And then anything new would be
Okay,
added
next.
to the bottom of the list.
Next, appointed committees. All I need on this is the bottom of page 2. Which one, are there any we wanna get rid of? Let's look at them, or any we wanna add. So let me read them to you as we go.
Right.
And they're different here because of,
That's-
this is the change in numbers from the bylaws. Okay, search nominations was first. Financial and budget. Officers,
Just a question on that one, should that be removed, should that be moved to stand, I would certainly think so.
oh yeah, financial and budget committee is
should be
now,
standing.
thank you, I asked the question. Financial and budget is now under appointive. Should we move it to standing?
Yeah. I think it should be standing, because
Thank
you all
Yes.
have committees working all year round.
Thank you.
Right, I'm surprised to hear it isn't.
No, in the bylaw,
Bilateral?
no, in the bylaws we're working from.
Oh, okay.
It isn't, that's why I'm bringing it up, and then officers are standing. That should be moved, that's not in the bilateral either, so we'll move it to standing,
Yes.
any objections?
No.
Election committee should be standing, shouldn't it?
No.
No?
That's not all year round.
Okay, not all year round?
Talk about that.
Okay, let's talk about
I
it.
think that's an important committee.
It's very important.
I think it should be a standing committee.
A standing committee meets all year round.
Which one?
Standing committee is Jay.
Election.
And-
The only
and-
election committee should meet all
And
year round.
actually, they're working now, working on some computerization ideas.
Yeah.
Standing is permanent, all year round?
Yeah.
And what else? Cause I'm gonna define these, huh?
All year round.
Anything else? I'll look them up, but otherwise, okay. So we're gonna move election to standing? Oh, do we assume it's all year round? Don, you're a good one to ask, you
What?
worked on this, or anybody else who's on it?
I would like to see it to be a standing committee.
Okay, anybody have any problem? Okay, the next one, editorial, that's appointed.
Bugle reporter?
No, that's a standing.
That's a standing committee.
Standing.
Look at the bylaws, it's under
Really?
appointed.
Oh, really?
Let's make it standing.
Really?
Year in, year out,
Originally
month
had a
in,
lot
month
of
out, you have to have a
discussion
newspaper.
Before I was even chair.
Right.
That's about that.
Right. Operations,
That's a standing.
That's standing.
Standing, definitely.
Standing.
There's been a few things folded into that, and you may wanna change the name. It's not just a paper, it's Channel 63.
Communications.
Communications.
So it's more on the order of communications. And communications and information, I don't know, come up with a nice name, but it's more than editorial, a lot more.
Communications/reporter.
Yeah, fine.
Communications is reporting, is what verbal
No,
is
slash
spelled
editorial,
I
I
mean,
mean.
it's.
They have to change.
Community
the
media.
stuff behind it.
Hopefully,
Use that one a lot.
will ultimately be resolved, there'll be a useful website that will be generally accepted. And that'll all be part of it, right? So,
I'm gonna speak to Joy too, I mean, she's ahead of it.
sure,
She
sure.
said communications,
Yeah, she will.
she's the one that wants it
This
there.
has to be changed though, the whole thing underneath.
I know, it has to be
Communications.
rewritten.
Question
Okay.
over here.
What are you
I'm
changing
sorry,
it to?
a hand.
I don't believe you should put editorial newspaper
Hold on.
communication channel 63. Maybe you should consider having a separate committee for communications, channel 63 and 95 or whatever it is, and not mix it with the newspaper.
How does everybody feel about that?
It's all one thing. It's
Okay.
just different channels
Of
for
communication.
similar things.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
communicating, you're communicating to the community, whether you're writing it or you're filming it or whatever it may be, or verbalizing, it's communication.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
and we are making that a standing committee, okay. Operations, we said standing,
Definitely.
okay, financial review,
Financial review.
that actually,
I didn't even know
that's,
there was
I
one.
think, like,
The budget or something.
Is that audit?
Yeah.
yeah,
I
like,
don't know what that.
Howard would have a, just before the budget, he'd have like a meeting in the party room and everybody would talk about
That's
it.
the finance committee.
That's the finance committee.
I'm giving you what's in the bylaws
Okay, so
right now.
change it to finance.
We have to take it out.
No, change
And
it
oh,
to
by the
finance
way,
committee.
the audit is almost ready for release.
Should be financial budget.
Very good.
So it's all under the finance committee.
Yeah.
All right, here is the finance
You
committee.
wanna call it
Page
finance,
36.
budget and audit, but it's still the finance
I wanna
committee.
see it on the list for a minute. Finance committee.
I would say one of the most important committees in
Yeah,
Newport.
and this
Yeah.
one, 36.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the
No, it's not.
page 36, okay.
Financial budget.
Add finance.
Financial and budget committee, it's a standing committee.
You know, you've raised an interesting point. In the military, they call this red team, blue team. The idea that there's a subcommittee as part of finance, but somewhat independent, who's looking for audit issues all the time. That's the red team. we'll bring this up in another venue. I think it's a neat idea.
Okay,
And I have an old paper that was called Management and Membership Agreement, if you remember that.
Yes.
An old one. And in there, they had Budget, Finance, and Internal Audit Committee. All three were one committee. That's how I'm just letting you know how they had it.
That was one
do you want
version
it?
of the bilateral,
Of the bilateral, it's part of,
Right.
yes.
and someone objected. Pearl Schneier? Someone objected to the word management. So it was taken out and regenerated in 2000.
Yeah, to bilateral.
Right.
But that was the
Bilateral.
original
Right.
one that was set up.
So what do we want the name of this committee to be?
I would say, where are we, on the reporter or on finance?
We're on finance.
Financial Review Committee is what we have right
We're
now.
taking that out.
Finance Committee.
Take it out.
That makes sense, actually.
The
Finance.
Financial and Budget Committee.
Finance and Budget Committee.
That's the
And-
original
yeah.
Financial and Budget Committee.
Originally was Budget, Finance, and
H.
Internal Audit Committee. On the original papers we got with WPRF, that's how they had it. But you can change it any way you want.
Okay, there's gonna have to be more language too, because the language I have is the Financial Review, let's say the Finance Committee is responsible to oversee, evaluate, and analyze financial information supplied by the management company.
This is all financial.
And that goes through
See,
operations.
That's not right.
No, that's totally.
All right, we have an operations committee,
That's where it goes.
and that is really who should be doing that,
Yes.
all right? Our finance committee needs to keep up with making the UCO budget. All right, and justifying it to the membership. To the extent they have time, and actually Howard, as sick as he was, had some time to work on some of the WPRF issues. Barbara looks over the invoices. I try to look over the invoices because they are, and what word shall I use on camera? Profligate in many examples. They don't make an effort to get the best price on a stock item, all right?
So the financial, this is for the person who has to write this up.
Right?
The Finance Committee is responsible to develop the UCO budget.
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, develop a UCO budget, justify it to
The membership,
what's the membership?
Delegate
The delegate
delegate
assembly.
assembly,
Delegate assembly.
or it's not gonna get passed,
Well,
or have a
right.
budget.
I'm just trying to get the right language because we've got a bunch of options here. What else does it do?
What else does it do? One would hope it would analyze and control expenditures. What does a budget and finance committee do?
Okay, all right, I'll throw that in, yeah.
I just wanna say something.
Analyze and control.
Uh,
It's
the
we're
same thing as,
talking about financial review,
The
right?
Financial Review
But if
Committee
you
is
go
all
back
in one.
all in one.
H, Financial Budget Committee, that's saying exactly what you're saying,
Right.
so,
We're just changing the name.
yeah, well, it should be really, this is WPRF and this is UCO. You got two different.
So what are you saying? Put them together or what?
No, the Financial Review Committee really goes to operations, cause you do the budget, the operations.
Operations for
Don't they?
WPRF though, they do
We do, operations, our
Does the
operations committee
WPRF
does the
budget.
WPRF budget.
But-
And that finance review committee is what they're saying, if you go back to
no,
financial.
that's old language.
That's what I'm saying, get rid of it.
That management always referred in the past to WPRF.
Yeah.
And
You have one
that
already
needs
for
to
us.
come out.
We have operations that is responsible, there's a ton of stuff, but the making of all policy and control of budgetary manners regarding operational expenses. So that's, the budget piece is covered under operations. And then we have now the finance committee that's going to be about developing a UCO budget, justifying it to the delegate assembly or to you, and analyzing and controlling expenditures.
Parse that language carefully. Don't mix up WPRF
Right.
and UCO,
Right.
right? There's obviously some very old language.
In what I just said?
If you go, you have this paper that you gave us.
Yeah.
And on page 36, if you will look
Yeah.
at it, H, you will see Financial and Budget Committee. That is referring to UCO's financial budget and how the finances are done in UCO. Then if you go up to where you're talking about Financial Review Committee 41, that has nothing to do with UCO whatsoever. Nothing
The
to
Financial
do.
Review Committee?
Has nothing to do with UCO, that's strictly in operations, it shouldn't even be there.
So we get rid of it.
That's
So
what
are
I'm
we
saying you
okay
should do.
on, look, on page, go ahead, comment, and then we'll go to, I want
No,
you to
no,
look
go-
at page
go ahead.
36.
I wanna hear what you've got left in
The
there.
Financial and Budget Committee, which says, a financial and budget committee shall be established consisting of the chief financial officer, we changed that, as chair, and at least 4 UCO members designated by the chief financial officer with the advice and consent of the officers committee.
Right? Maybe at least a parentheses after CFO, treasurer. That's our treasurer, that's our UCO treasurer.
It was Howard who wanted to put down his chief
Oh,
financial.
okay, I got you.
Why is it not
Yeah, that was,
CFO?
Howard had asked us to change it, he was
Alright,
here when we
fine.
did it.
Well, he won't be with you.
Do you wanna go back to treasurer, I mean, chief financial officer is a.
It's the same thing.
Sounds very high
But
class.
we'll have to
Yes, I
change
think so.
everything. If
Oh,
we,
yeah, you're right.
we're gonna have to change everything
It
from
is changed
treasurer
in here, everywhere.
everywhere.
It
He's
is.
talking about the articles and everything
Yeah.
else,
We
that's why you
can't
have to have
change the articles.
treasurer.
use-
Well, you're gonna have to change everything if
Oh,
you're
yes, you
changing the
can.
title of treasurer
By the way.
to CFO.
You certainly can advise on the changing of the articles
We
of
can
the
advise,
corporation.
but okay, we can't do it here, alright. So what are we
Let's go
saying?
back to treasurer.
CFO is fine.
Or to
I
assume
have-
that's the
yes,
treasurer is the CFO.
Next election, are we gonna be voting for a treasurer or for a chief
Right,
financial officer?
exactly.
Yeah,
George.
that's exactly right, George.
Right,
You're
well, that's
right.
what I say. You're gonna
Yeah.
call
We
it
have to
one
use
thing or the
treasurer
other.
and all
I mean,
I
you
think
know,
it should be the
let's
chief
let
financial
Howard
officer.
rest in peace, but let us go back to treasurer, it'll be easier.
So to you guys.
We can tell people
I-
what a chief financial officer
But
is,
you're gonna
I think
remember,
they know.
it's gonna have to be, as George said,
should
it's
be
gonna have to be
consistent.
your election, it's gonna,
Should be
it's gonna have to
consistent
be changed.
everywhere.
And we need an amendment to change from treasurer to CFO also.
You're right about CFO, but Marilyn's right, because when it comes to our election, it calls for president, so many vice presidents, and treasurer is the
Treasurer.
word that is used.
Yeah.
So I hate to say it, but Marilyn, I think you're 100%
Okay,
right.
Thank you, Barbara.
Can I have a motion to change CFO back to treasurer?
We never changed it to CFO, did we?
No,
We did in our discussions,
you have to
This
take it
entire
out of here,
thing.
yeah.
so we don't need a
But do you have a
vote
motion that you changed it?
No.
Did you make, did anybody make a
way
motion?
back, I'll go back and see, we might
Well,
have.
I'll make a motion now,
Just in case
if
we
it has
need
been,
it.
just in case,
I'll second it.
change to,
Hold on,
Go back to,
check
Treasurer.
Sundays and see if he changed it on Sundays.
on what, I'm
That's-
sorry?
I believe Howard changed it on Sundays.
Well, that's
But
my,
that
that
can be
was
changed
leading to my
on-
next
But-
question.
But that can be changed on Sunday.
Yes.
718 specifically requires treasurer. Is that the same for 617? It's not,
No, CFO is fine in the
Just
real
like-
world.
okay.
anyway, I make the
Right, it's
motion.
just a regular corporation, right.
What are we
I'm checking.
recommending?
Treasurer.
Treasurer,
Do we have anybody disagreeing at this point?
Who's second?
Well,
Me,
we're not gonna do a
Jackie.
vote if everybody agrees. I don't think so, do we
no,
have
let's
to?
vote just for fun.
Should we?
No.
Alright, go ahead, Bob, I guess we do.
What is the motion?
The motion is to
To change,
return the language to treasurer as
Treasurer.
opposed to chief financial officer.
Yes. that,
Ruth Dreyfus?
Yes.
Second,
Who was the second?
Jackie?
Jackie seconded.
Jackie's a yes?
Who made the motion?
George
Bob
Patel?
did it. Oh,
Yes.
Is he on, oh, no, George.
Thank you.
David Saxon?
Yes,
Okay.
Bob Marshall?
He's not here, he walked out.
No,
Okay.
George made the motion.
I thought I did.
He's
Taking
here.
a
I
vote.
made the
Stop
motion.
David
this.
Saxon made the motion.
Stop everybody,
David
he's
Saxon.
taking a vote.
I got it.
Yes,
Stuart Richard,
Yes.
David Israel,
Yes.
Marilyn Cordes.
Yes.
Ed Black is here now, he's an officer.
The motion is to change, to make sure that the language, okay,
I agree with you.
okay,
Unanimous.
thank you, so it's unanimous, thank you.
That's great.
All right,
Makes it
now,
easier.
the last ones that are on here, yes,
I don't know if you ever got through putting down the duties, the key duties of the treasurer. And one of them should be to arrange for a yearly audit of the books.
we'll go back and look at that.
Go
I'll
ahead,
go
Blake.
back to it in a minute. Okay. Remind me to go back to that, go back to adding audit.
And note the word is arrange, not conduct. This is an arm's length.
I think it's in there, but I wanna make sure, audit to. And it's under there.
Did you sign? No.
Okay, hospitality committee, does that stay? Oh, go ahead.
No, I wanted to talk about hospitality.
Sounds like-
There are 3 other committees, the newcomers, there are committees for parties. There's the newcomers committee, there's the senior centenarian party, there's the volunteer party, and I forgot.
Installation.
Installation. Now, you appoint a chair for those. Is that an ad hoc committee, or should that be, or part of this hospitality?
To the degree, I believe it's a standing committee, but it is one of the most difficult committees to keep staffed. And you get a little frustrated and you start thinking about maybe some of these things should go away if we can't get people to staff these committees. They're important. They are things that we provide, and in most cases, A, for our new people to kind of indoctrinate them, and B, as something of a reward for thousands and thousands of hours of volunteer work. I think it should be one committee.
Well, then you have to change the wording, but what you've been doing is having one chair run the newcomers and another chair or co-chairs run the
Very ad
other
hoc.
two. So when you have here in hospitality, all they're responsible for is renting rooms, that's not true.
So we want to add what? Oh, go ahead, I've got a comment first, Jackie, and then we'll go back.
Yeah.
Think about it.
The hospitality committee is responsible for the oversight of the rental of rooms and other facilities. That's not so. If I wanna use a room in the clubhouse, I have to go to them. I don't go to a committee, I go to WPRF to find out if I can use that and what the restrictions are. And the same with the food and beverage services.
You're gonna have.
But you are, once you're head of that committee, you really are under the direction of the president to do all that, to plan, that's part of planning the party.
Yeah, but that, you're talking apples and oranges here. If I wanna rent a room in the clubhouse for whatever reason, I have to go to WPRF.
If you wanna reserve a room, we don't pay them any extra, there's no rent. This, I think, speaks to when we used to go out to
Facilities,
hotels
yeah.
Okay,
and rent major space for big luncheons and the like.
Installation dinner.
Installation party, yeah.
Okay, hold on a minute, hold on a minute, 1, 2, 3.
a lot of organizations rent rooms and we don't pay for them, but we have to deal with WPRF.
Yes.
So you're mixing apples and oranges here.
So do we wanna change the language?
Yeah, because
Coordinate with WPRF for what?
I don't think the thing with WPRF has to be in here.
Okay,
We just,
The committee will be responsible for
Food
what?
as well as.
Installation luncheon, I don't know,
May I?
the recognition, volunteer recognition luncheons.
how about you go luncheons or whatever you
Sure.
wanna.
Or you.
hold on, I'm gonna ask you for a list in a minute, I'm gonna go to Barbara and then Betty.
Okay, on the hospitality, that whole sentence should be, that whole paragraph should be taken out, cause it's really not, it's not necessary. If you put down newcomers, centenarians, volunteer luncheon, installation
Installation.
luncheon.
Hold on.
Everybody knows that whoever's over that, of course they have to get the room from WPRF. I mean, you don't need to be told that. This was totally different. But now
Right.
you're making hospitality to newcomers, the centenarians, the volunteer luncheon, installation. That's your four major things. And whoever's in charge of it, like if you're in charge of that, that doesn't mean you can't say, Ruth, you're on the committee, I'd like you to handle newcomers. George, you're on the committee, I want you to handle this. That's up to the committee chair, but one person should be in charge of all of it, so they can keep it all together.
What was the fourth one, and then I'm go,
Newcomers,
I'll go to
senior,
centenarians,
centenarian,
volunteer, and installation.
installation. Could you put coordinating and planning? These events or something,
Coordinating and planning those events.
yeah, those events.
and those are
Or
the
it could be
ones.
under the direction of,
Well,
No,
Take out
just
the
leave it,
oversight
I think
of
no,
where
just coordinating, planning these events.
Okay,
Take out,
go
you're gonna-
ahead, David,
I just want-
thank
You're
you.
gonna take out.
I
Hold
just
on.
want to comment from past experience.
Hold on, everybody.
Because at one time, I did have responsibility, which I, of course, offered myself to do the luncheon and so on and so forth. It should all come under one person. Simply,
Yes,
and then
so
you
you-
can, as was said, you can appoint various people to head a particular function. And that's what it should be, and we do have to coordinate with WPRF, it has nothing to do with UCO in general. It's
Okay,
WPRF, so based upon, as I said, my own experience, that's what I would suggest.
okay, so are you saying that the chair is the committee is responsible for coordination and planning events to include newcomers, centenarians, volunteer luncheon,
Correct.
installation dinner?
Perfect,
yeah.
Done?
Anything to do
Perfect.
with
In other words,
hospitality.
And
those
we're
are
taking out
subcommittees
video
within a
altogether.
committee.
Hold on a minute, good point.
And that's what the point I wanted to make. You have a committee, hospitality committee, and under that, you have your subcommittees, which would be
Are they
your
subcommittees or are they
newcomer,
just
your
doing it all together?
induction.
No, they're,
No.
They're really.
all
sub-
three,
It all falls under
one
hospitality.
person handled all three, except one was separate. And so it's the chair of the, whatever you wanna call it,
Hospitality committee.
the hospitality committee that really coordinates
That's right.
All four.
all the other
divisions.
all the parties, all the events.
Betty again
Can
and
I
then
add one
David.
thing? But at one point, I don't know if it's still in existence, one of the vice presidents was the overseer of this. I don't know whether that's still in effect or not.
Yeah, can I?
Personally, I don't think it should be, that's my personal opinion.
Okay,
Okay, let me
Jackie?
just talk to that, last year, there was a vice president, Bobby Levin, who was absolutely wonderful. You can get, her management style was terrific, in my opinion. In other words, I was the chair, so I certainly did report to her, she was a great help, but she did not stifle or micromanage the events.
so we're.
So it is under the direction of a vice
Okay,
president.
are they
He's not a
subcommittees though?
vice president.
No, no. Since I was it, I handled all two of them were handled by Lori, the centenarian, and the newcomers were handled by Lori. She was the chair.
So
I
we-
handled the other two, so I don't know what you wanna do now, have one person, which I think is a good idea.
Yeah, it is.
Can we, let me just ask a question so I'm understanding. Do we have to have subcommittees or can the chair
No.
appoint individuals to take
That's-
on the
The chair can do
responsibility?
The chair
And
should do it.
that's that's up to the committee and the
That's
chair and
right.
how they do it is my sense.
That's the
Yes.
chair's responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go around to the committee and then go over to the guests. Go ahead.
Just a correction, Jackie, Bobby is not a vice president.
Oh, I'm
She's a
sorry.
secretary.
Secretary.
Doesn't have to be a vice
Okay,
president.
David.
Okay, so thank you for
But
the
at my
correction.
time, it was a vice president.
It
was
yeah,
not
it was, but there's
That-
no.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
one time it was,
we're
yes.
pressed for time. Thank you, everybody, for quieting
So-
down.
Don't be so quick to say that it's not under UCO supervision. Because some of those events require a lot of budget money.
Yes.
And not a lot, but a significant, not an insignificant budget line. And that committee has to coordinate with finance to make sure that that's accounted for. you know.
It's now listed as a committee under appointed. The
Right.
assumption is the president creates those committee,
The chair.
appoints the chair.
Appoints the chair, right.
Okay, all right, do we have another in here and then we'll go to outside?
What David just said about appointing, you have to understand something, you have to have an officer.
Right.
One officer, I don't care who it is, that will be overseeing what's being done because it's a UCO function. And like you said, getting money and other things, and sometimes it can be, like you said, helpful. You report to them, so you have to have an oversee of a UCO officer.
Is that in every committee?
No.
Just this one?
No.
So we need to add that the committee will be overseen?
A lot of committees have an oversee, that's an officer, I hate to tell you.
Okay,
A lot of committees,
okay.
All committees.
all committees that I know.
But here's a point,
Everybody's capable of those.
a point. If a lot of committees have overseers, then why does it have to be in the bylaws? Why isn't it in every committee that a vice president is the overseer?
An officer.
An officer.
Yeah.
It is.
I think
Only a point of questioning.
it's not in the bylaws that a committee has to be
Yeah.
overseen by an officer, but
So
I
they-
think
Something you
at
should
some
think
point
about.
we assume we've got committees and they know what they're doing. At some point, I'm, no, don't assume that, okay?
Don't assume that. I oversee a lot of committees. And very often, it's because I've selected those committees because they have very competent chairs and I don't wanna see them disturbed by micromanagement. There's a lot of reasons, but I do think there should be a bylaw requiring that there be an oversight to every committee, an officer of UCO oversight.
And it should be.
That's about watching the money.
We've got money?
This particular little subset, and I think it's a great thing. But it kind of bothered me, people come into my office, oh, I need $3,000. And I'll sometimes give these, you know who I'm
I
talking.
know who you mean, yes.
And I'll give them a little static and I say, where were you at budget time? Because now Howard's gonna have to scrounge around to find that money, because we don't have it budgeted.
It never has been, but that's a good thing for the budget committee,
Right.
that should be
It was
budgeted,
budgeted,
just the
So
way.
do we want language
Assertive.
that says there will be an oversight to every committee by an officer of UCO? Do we want that to go into on
Yes.
top
I
of the
would
committee
propose
language?
that.
Does everybody agree? Do we have any disagreement?
No, I'd make the motion.
Okay, do we need a motion? But okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got it over here.
I just wanna say, if the hospitality committee only deals with special events, it should be renamed the events committee and become a standing committee to deal with any special event that happens. Hospitality is,
Reminds
I
me
know.
of welcome
Cookie said
wagon.
somebody's sick.
That should
I
be,
like that.
That's a
that's
good
good,
idea.
that's
So
a
what
good
are we
idea.
calling it, the events committee?
Or maybe the events.
Special events.
Or special events, that's a good idea,
I like that.
Very
Yeah,
good,
that's
thank you.
yeah.
Who have I missed? I know I've missed people. Hospitality now is gonna be the special events committee, okay?
Are we going to change the wording though in this paragraph about
Yeah,
the
gotta get rid of
oversight
it.
parental approval?
Yeah, take it all,
Taking out the whole
take it
thing?
all
Yeah.
out.
I think take out the whole thing.
Just put the
Okay.
names of
Okay,
the.
great.
Sports committee,
Yeah, what is that?
What is
Go
that?
away.
oh,
We have a motion on the table.
oh, sorry, we are
Oh, okay.
voting?
What is the motion?
I made the motion.
The motion is that
All committees.
all committees shall have oversight by an officer of UCO, and that'll go at the top, at the intro.
I'll second.
Make that, yeah, I made the,
You're leaving yourself open to an awful lot. When you say an officer, is that going to be a secretary? Is
Yes,
it going to be a
yes.
vice president?
Son- yes,
You have got
it's
to
an
be more
officer.
detailed.
All of the above.
And I really think that that's something
And
that
who
should,
appoints it, who
Right.
says which officer?
I really,
President,
I,
no?
wait a minute, I really think that that should wait until afterwards with things that we're going to bring up later. That's too important, I think, just to stick in, my personal
Well,
opinion.
it's just a proposal, I mean, it's
No,
just
it's
a
not, you're
suggestion.
making a motion to do it.
Who made the motion?
I did.
It's a good motion from an organizational point of view to tie this all together. These folks, my observation is they're kind of working on a shoestring, they're working ad hoc, they're not properly budgeted. And this motion, I think, will tie all of that together.
Who's going to choose the overseer?
Okay, let's look at how it's done now.
President to choose.
President.
President would advise some consent.
Usually, I will go around, but in many cases, people put their hand up because they have expertise in certain areas. And who am I to blow against the wind, okay? They're just appointed, but if we need one, then I would become engaged and stir the officers up and try to get one to
So are we
agree.
saying the president will appoint
Yeah,
and
it
an
may be,
overseer?
yes, of all committees, and maybe put in that advice and consent language.
Yes. An officer of UCO with the advice and consent of officers to serve as an overseer.
No officers committee.
Is there a synonym for overseer?
Yeah, I always think that too.
I just, that bothers me as
We are in
How
the
about
south.
an
provide-
American history teacher.
Right, I know, how about
True, I
provide
don't like
oversight?
that,
Oversight is fine.
Provide oversight.
Oversight is fine. The other one, I don't wanna sound politically correct, but we shouldn't have it in
I
there.
think that's a good
Yeah.
suggestion.
Executive
It's just,
supervision.
supervision, anything like that, but the other one.
One more comment and we're gonna take a vote.
Name of the second.
I don't even know who,
I never liked that word.
Who
I'll
seconded?
second.
David.
David Bowen.
well, who made the motion?
I did.
Okay, Ruth, motion, and David Boaz, second.
Just one thing else, Anita, and
Yes,
I think it's a good thing that this is done because, say I'm the chairman of the committee. Well, I may know what I'm doing at the chairman, but I may need somebody's expertise. I don't know everything, what all the ins and outs of the bylaws of UCO or WPRF are. And you would count on that officer of that
That's the idea.
committee to do
That's the
that.
idea.
right. Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, that's a good point, because for the first time, we've been asked well, we did, when Pat was secretary, she had all the party information, it seems it disappeared. So I've been asking Kathy, you see, for the three parties, it's Kathy, Lori and I have been doing it, okay. But for the first time, Bobby has asked us for documentation. So my point is, maybe in there, it should be committee chair should provide, no? Okay.
No,
It's
no,
up
no.
to the overall.
Absolutely. If money is being spent, there's documentation, and I'm just for the
So-
record here telling you, every piece of paper for every luncheon going back a decade is in that database.
And I have a notebook from years ago too that I'll provide as well, but maybe that should be in the, and maybe Betty, you have something, but it's something about documentation or, I don't know,
Okay, the committee chair
expenses.
shall provide documentation for every expenditure or whatever.
Right, I think that's it, right?
Anything else?
I mean,
And there's a format, excuse me, because I know I developed it for what I was doing, I'm sure you did for yours. We all have formats, and this is what I started in September for a luncheon that didn't take place until
you
the
start once,
following year.
of
So
course,
there was an awful lot of work.
yes,
You have
it's, that's the problem.
Committee to work with you, and there were people who, as was pointed out before, who volunteered but never showed. And never even had the decency to call any member on that committee and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. And that person happens to be on the executive board now.
Okay.
Was appointed at one point and also elected now.
Okay,
Point well taken.
that did not
Point well
happen
taken.
for 3 years,
motion.
the committee was
The
there.
president shall appoint a UCO officer to provide oversight to every committee.
Each committee shall have someone.
Yeah, each,
Same.
I'm sorry, I did it
Because that way
backwards.
it's not
We
like one
limit it to a
person's
vice
gonna be able to
president?
see it for every.
No.
Each committee,
Wouldn't have enough.
No.
the
As
president
the overseer?
will appoint you have it?
What I have here is, it said all committees shall have oversight by officer of UCO with advice and consent, and I didn't get the rest of that.
Okay, shall have oversight of UCO committees. The
You've already said all committee.
shall have oversight by a UCO officer.
Why don't you just make it the president shall assign an officer to have oversight of each committee. Whether they're appointed or they volunteer for it, doesn't really make any difference.
Sir, may I,
Sure,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Does it have to be an officer or can it be an elected official?
No,
I think that would be better because you may wanna have somebody that's on the executive board.
No.
be an officer.
No.
Definitely.
No.
Okay, go ahead, you want
No,
you want it, are you sure? Okay, the president shall assign a UCO officer to provide oversight for each committee.
It's okay by me.
Is that all right, Olga?
Advice and consent.
Oh, with the advice and consent of the officers committee.
Foregone conclusion.
Thank you, I knew something was missing. Olga,
This doesn't make any sense to me because you're saying that the
Can't hear
president
you.
shall.
You have to talk
appoint somebody-
louder.
The president shall appoint an oversight to look after the committee, but it doesn't spell out what this person has to do. So this whole thing doesn't make any sense to me. I personally don't think it's necessary unless you spell out specifically what this person has to do besides oversight or overlook or check. Check what?
Very.
it's a good point, actually, go ahead.
We've had oversights for every committee since I've been in here. And most of the time you act as, if you need information, like say Jackie, she'd come to me and say, Barbara, do you know this, or can you help me with this? You're there to help, that's what you're there for,
But
to help.
then put that in there.
You're
That's a
not
good
there,
point.
you're not there to
serve
really
as a
micromanage,
resource.
Not to micromanage.
Not to micromanage.
Time, please.
All right, all right,
Oversight means to look after, make sure everybody's honest, they're not putting them on, that, whatever. It's very,
I think it's a good
loose.
point.
It's
Let
loose.
me suggest something and then you guys can all jump in. The president shall assign a UCO officer to serve as a resource for each UCO committee
There you go.
with the
That's-
advice and consent.
That's a good idea.
Does that
I
work?
like that, yes.
Bob, you okay with that?
Well suggested.
I like that.
You're writing it down, right?
Yes, I am, with the advice and consent of the officers committee. And remember, go ahead.
That isn't saying anything about watching the expenditures and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, to serve as a resource and is it monitor the
No, I don't like that.
financials or
Leave it at that.
approve or what?
Don't complicate it, leave it at that, it serves as a resource, leave it at
And
that.
it's not,
That's it.
it doesn't have to be monitored because every bill that you spend must be turned in.
Okay,
So there's nothing, what are they monitoring? Every bill is turned in, so.
I'm gonna go ahead, David.
I'm gonna speak for my administration and how I viewed the oversight. And it was exactly that, to provide a resource for information if the chair ran into a glitch or some kind of issue. I never imagined the oversight officer running the committee day to day. They were to sort of hang back and wait till they were approached unless they observed something egregious and provide a resource, yes,
If needed,
if needed by the chair.
Yep, if needed.
Yes.
Right,
That's
if
right.
requested by the chair.
Right.
The chair should run his or her committee.
is that better? Let me try it. The president shall assign a UCO officer to serve as a resource as requested by a committee chair
Upon request.
upon request,
Yeah, of committee chairs.
upon request of committee
Of a committee
chairs.
I don't think a committee chair should feel that somebody is looking over their shoulder.
Well, that just
Everything
If
they're
they've
doing.
requested it.
Absolutely.
It's the chair who should orchestrate and run the committee.
That's right.
Okay,
Unless they
And if
really,
requested,
exactly.
got it, okay, and I'm gonna change it, go ahead, Marilyn.
Yeah, I chair 2 committees. And if I needed something, if I had a question about something, I'd go to the person who either chaired a committee before me, or people maybe on my committee who have been around longer, or the vice presidents who might
Right.
know what I need. To me, to set up a committee like this is unnecessary, and I would feel if I would chair that why is that person who knows less than I do coming to check on me? That's the way I would feel as a
That's
chair.
not what he's
it's
saying.
if requested.
They should not
As
be coming
requested.
to check
You
on
have to
you
request.
One at a time, please.
unless you come to them. And if you don't have the confidence in that person, then you won't come to them.
I would bet that some people will feel, that some of those offices will feel otherwise.
Let me try the language and see if there's any finessing. And I'm gonna start with the advice and consent of the officers committee. The president shall assign a UCO officer to serve as a resource as requested
Upon request
If
upon
requested, yeah.
request
of the chair.
of a committee chair. Of a committee chair. That's what we have. Is that enough?
Yep.
Okay, let's vote on it. Let me remind you, when we're done with all of this and you have the draft, we are gonna take one more pass through it. When your heads are clear, one last meeting to look at it and say, did we mean it, did we mean it, did we mean it? We're not gonna open everything up, but we're gonna say, is this really what we intended, okay? So it's important to make the vote, but there's a safety valve at the end. Okay, Bob, do you wanna take the vote?
Ruth,
Yes,
Are we doing
Jackie?
the motion second? Yes.
Yeah, there was a motion.
whatever she
George?
just said.
Yes,
David Saxon,
Yes.
Bob Marshall,
David
Boaz,
Yes.
Stu Richmond.
Yes.
David Israel,
Yes.
Marilyn Franceschi.
No,
Ed Black.
the way,
I don't know the motion.
So that's an
You
abstain.
want me to read it to you? Want me to read it? Would you like me to read it?
You can.
Okay. With the advice and consent of the officers committee, the president shall assign a UCO officer to serve as a resource upon request, to serve as a report upon request of a committee chair.
right.
I would vote yes for that.
Okay, thank you.
8-1.
Okay, 8-1. Okay, this next one is so easy, you're gonna be thrilled. You're gonna be so happy. Draft language for bid committee.
Do we have it in?
Oh, we didn't finish?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We didn't do strategic planning, which I don't know what that is.
Let's keep going. Sports committee,
Okay, what is it? Do we
eliminated.
have such a thing?
A million years ago, and I have no idea what it did.
I'd like to
Except
take it
maybe, arranged for sailboat races. They do that where at Deerfield. I know one of the other villages does sailboat races,
Paralegal board.
and arranged for tennis tournaments. I mean, there was something that went on a long time ago.
Do we do it now?
No.
Hold on, everybody. Go ahead, Olga.
I have something to say, why don't you just make it an ad hoc committee to work on the long-term lease that's coming up? In other words, the Millennium Agreement.
Yes, that's.
What committee is this a separate committee?
Yeah,
Yeah, it should
instead
be.
of the strategic planning,
We're not up to that yet, we're sorry
We're
about
up to
sports.
sports.
Still on
Oh,
sports.
we're up to sports.
Wait.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you. All right, are we getting rid of the sports committee?
Yes,
Yes.
Gone.
Now,
Any objection in the committee? Strategic planning is the next one. Do you know that we don't have any appointive committees? Have we come up with one appointive?
How does it differ from ad hoc?
Supposed to be your special event.
I mean, no, we have no. Everything we've talked about is standing.
Yes, or ad hoc.
Have we got any ad hocs? We have one ad hoc?
Yeah, the clicker committee, which I think is gonna become a standing.
You know, I had a thought that I forgot. I just thought of it, said, what about that 5K committee veterans thing? Is that an ad
That
hoc?
should be under,
5K walk run.
Or should that be under committees?
that should be
Should
under
that be ad hoc?
How about sports?
events,
That's under
Should that be,
events.
I just thought of it.
Events.
That's an event.
Events, should be under
An
events.
event.
What's the name of it?
What do you
That's
call it?
sports.
Veterans 5K walk.
Veterans 5K walk.
5K
But isn't
walk.
that, yeah,
It's
is
an
that
event.
that's not
Wanna
standing.
throw honor flight into that?
That's what I mean, yeah. But is that ad hoc or? And one other thing, David mentioned,
Everybody calm down, I know that everybody's getting tired, hang with me just a little bit more. We can very quickly get a couple things done.
honor flight, David, and it's the honor flight too. Should that be under
Events.
Always.
events or ad hoc? I just thought of
It's
it.
an event.
It's an event.
It looks like something we're gonna be doing every year.
Okay,
And
so-
it sounds like an event to me.
Sounds like an event to
Okay,
me.
I don't think we have any ad hoc
Yeah,
committees, do we?
no.
So what,
Clickers,
clickers, ad hoc.
Excuse me, but that'll be an ongoing thing too,
yes, it will,
so therefore
Right
it
now,
can't
it's
be ad hoc.
no doubt about it.
Where is the clickers committee? I don't have any language in it.
John Gregg is chair of the Clickers
Oh,
Committee,
Lord.
and there are people on it. Listen, it's a humorous name, but it's a pain in the tail. There's a lot of things that you have to keep track of with these clickers.
Like the clickers themselves.
Exactly,
Hold on one second. So there is a committee.
yes.
Is it a standing committee?
No, they
It's
sit.
evolving in that
Right
direction.
But it's an ad
now,
hoc.
it is ad hoc, but as Stuart just said, there's a long maintenance trail and it is evolving.
So where should I put it, or should I wait?
Under
Wait.
elections.
It's not formalized completely, it's an ad hoc,
Right.
and when it's all formalized, that is, when
I'm
it's
gonna wait,
it's
okay.
run properly and we have all the bugs cleared up, then we'll have
Should be
it
ad hoc.
put in.
I'm gonna
Just keep it
suggest
ad hoc year to year.
that we push strategic planning till next time. The transportation to next time, although is transportation standing?
Yeah, that,
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do that next time, just because it's gonna be long discussions, next meeting. Access to records, I wanna ask you, does that belong in committees?
What is that?
I never heard,
It's
no,
under,
that's not a
it's
committee.
under, it's under committees, and I
That's
don't
not a
know why.
committee.
Should it be its own own article?
What does it mean?
Per chapter 617, Florida statutes, upon 10 days' notice to the UCO president or in the president's absence to the chief financial officer, any unit owner shall have access to all the records of UCO, including but not limited to the financial and accounting records. And it goes on and on.
Should chief not a committee?
It's a law.
Well, it's under access to records as a bylaw.
That shouldn't be.
Anita, chief financial officer, are you changing that to
Treasurer.
Treasurer.
Yes.
Take the whole thing out, that's a law.
May I get a clarification when it says all the records? Now, if you're giving it under the treasurer's capacity, that would limit it to financial. Now, what about delegates? Would we have access to who the delegates are for the various associations? If we're talking about all records, let's clarify this.
Let's get rid of it. Or let's get rid of it. Barbara?
I think you should get rid of this, it's not a committee, it's law.
Definitely not.
On the 718 and 617, you're allowed to get certain records. We don't need, there's no such thing as a committee. I don't even, never heard of a committee for this. So I think it should be
No,
eliminated.
no, there's two separate things.
It should be
Wait a
eliminated.
minute, two separate things. I raised it because it's not a committee. It's listed as a committee, it is not.
Definitely not.
Do we have to say that unit owners have access?
It's in the
They
718.
have, yeah, they do, it's in
They
seven.
should.
Automatically.
Yes,
Okay,
automatically they
Remove-
get it now.
remove
It's a
access
law.
to records, we got that one done. Anybody objecting?
No, you just passed the strategic planning and
Yeah, back.
I'm just saying that they're gonna be,
Next time.
When you just said you're gonna postpone it till next session.
yes,
But you just
I'm trying to do a
You
couple
went down to the
quick
bottom,
hits.
she's saying you went to the bottom.
Yes, here's the point, there are some of these are gonna take a long time, I'm saying, can we do them next week? Some of these are really quick, like we just got rid of it, are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
David,
Just a quick thing on the records here. You can't confuse financial because it states in the president's absence. Doesn't mean, that's, the next person you go to is the chief financial officer. Doesn't mean it's just financial records that you can get to.
records.
we
Correct.
spent a lot of time on that one, I think it's why.
Hold on. There should be no reference to unit owners' access to records in our bylaw.
Absolutely not.
Done.
This is
Out.
built in to state law of corporations, FS 617. It's very unambiguous.
Okay,
And there are virtually no, other than say health records.
okay.
Even payroll records are included, virtually nothing is excluded. The doctrine, as Rod explained it to me, is they pay for it, they have a right to see how their money is being spent.
Exactly right.
That's what the law boils down to.
Okay, now let me, thank you. Let me go back to Olga's point. I just asked, and you don't have to agree to this, to push transportation and strategic planning to next week, because I think there's gonna be a lot of discussion about that. Now I'm gonna ask you, do we agree with that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you something really quick. Draft language for bid committee. There's only one thing that Dom suggested. Take a look at it. It follows committees. It's right after committees, and it says draft language for bid.
Oh, here it is, here it is.
Page,
Does everybody have it? It's on page one.
oh, on one.
Article, do you see it?
Mission to bid committee.
Article 8F.
Are we in the agenda part or are we elsewhere?
We're under draft, under the drafts. Wait a minute, draft,
What page, what page?
Page one.
page one of bid. No,
Draft language
yeah.
for bid committee?
You're in
Yes,
committees,
you're
you're in
right.
bid. Hold on. What does this say? Does it say bid? No. Next one, hold on. Yeah, committees was a long one. That's where you are.
Oh, I was there anyway.
Yes.
I mentioned this, Barbara mentioned it. One of the things I do is I go over the WPRF invoices. And randomly, I will select a product that is clearly a stock off-the-shelf item. And I'll go out on the internet and look for it. And invariably find it at 25 to 50% less. Okay? And I would like to see language added to a bid committee members a required ability to go out on the internet, to use a computer, and not just accept the 1, 2, or 3 bids that, say, the CAM has come up with. See if they can find apples to apples this product and service at a better price locally, I mean, or if it's a product wherever. I don't care if they get it from Rangoon.
I want you to read the language that's there. I'll go to you, Barbara, right after that. I talked to Dom about this. Committee it's on the page that says draft language for bid committee. The committee is responsible to oversee purchases made by UCO and WPRF on behalf of UCO residents. The committee is required to fully research market costs, specifications, and quality of any products and services it recommends for purchase.
That's fine, but I don't see it happening. I'm sitting in hopes, one day at a bid committee meeting, someone will put up their hand and say, I found product X, I can get it from a firm in Chicago, including shipping, at 15% less.
Well, how
And
do
I
we-
have never heard that yet.
How do we enforce that?
Well, it should be
Chair.
on committee.
Huh? Go ahead, Barbara,
The
and then,
chair should
and then David.
enforce the people who are on the committee to do it, but first of all,
Or
the
sign.
bids can't come the day you have a committee.
Right.
That was said by WPRF and UCO, at least 4 days prior to a meeting, you get the bids. You don't need that much time, but I say 4 days, cause it takes nothing to go on a computer and say, all right, let's get these specifications, put them in Google, and you can check 100 companies.
Do you want that
The
language
only
in there?
thing, the only thing I think it's up to the chair to make sure everybody does research. If I'm a chair, I say, Ruth, you research this, you research that. Everybody should be doing something on that committee. Also, I have a question.
Should, what are you saying?
The chair
committee
shall-
should require, or and it says the committee is required, are you saying
The chair
the
shall
chair?
assign research, right,
A committee member, each committee member.
and that will cover the research.
Each committee member?
Or a committee.
Well, each committee
Each
member
committee.
to do research.
Is responsible.
But I have another question on this. I wanna know when, because I might have not been here, I might have forgot, being a senior, when the excess of $5,000 was put in here.
Yeah.
When I was here, it was $2,500.
That's right, that's right.
All of a sudden, I see 5,000. When was
I
that
had-
voted on?
I had the
I don't
same question.
remember it.
I had the same
That was,
question.
That's
that was
wrong.
discussed,
Well,
if
then
we need
Dom
to
is
change it, we
wrong.
can change it. Go ahead, yes, I think it was Dom, but go ahead, David.
I was gonna ask the same question that Barbara did, and I think this is probably what Dom put in as maybe a recommendation. But it is, to the best of my knowledge, it's still $2,500. And also to go back
I'm in a meeting.
with Barbara,
I'm still in a meeting.
what David says is true. I'm on the bid committee, and I'm looking at these things, and I'm sorry, I'll say it right now, WPRF is the worst offender. Here it is, they wanted to approve that day.
That minute, that shouldn't be
Really?
accepted, put it off then.
I'm sorry, you just don't, and it just can't work that way. I have no problem doing research, I did purchasing for years. I'm more than glad to do it, but you just can't expect me to come in and say, well, this looks like a
Do we
good
want to
price. I
codify
don't
that,
know,
David?
Yeah.
David, do we wanna codify that by saying any
Bids.
bid, any bid must be presented
At least 4 business days, at least.
to the committee, the bid committee, the committee, at least 4 days before the meeting.
Well, I think that's also scam, because sometimes, sometimes it takes a long time for someone to come back with a quote for you. They may not have time to send somebody out to look at a job in 3 or 4 days' time.
So you wanna hold it?
I think it should be a longer period of
10
time
days?
before
Okay,
that.
what do you say, Barbara?
2 weeks.
I tell you the truth, I can't go along with David, I understand his problem to get people out here. I've had this problem right now, okay? But the point is that to do research, not to get someone to come out. You can use a phone, use the computer and say approximately. If somebody's giving me a quote of $20,000 and you're gonna say approximately 10,000 to 15, I'll say, okay, I'll go into that bid committee and say, hey, we have to hold this until I can get this finalized. I can get it between 10 and 15. You can hold it in committee.
I agree,
You
but
know,
there's not a lot of places that'll give you a blank
No,
quote.
I know, I understand that, but I don't wanna
But-
hold up
Uh,
having something processed.
Hold
But they
on.
should be, UCO and them both should be so many days before, because it's not fair to the committee. They can't do research when they're giving it to, at 10 o'clock in the morning, can't do it.
And
Think
basically.
about how much time you want while I get comments.
And
you were
basically,
next.
I was gonna say part of that. The idea is the chair, but as soon as they have those bids, needs to send that information to the
Yes.
committee members. And it's the chair's responsibility to do that, so when they come into the committee meeting, they have knowledge, they can check it out. But if they don't do that, then, you know, and only the vice presidents get that information, no one else is getting that information.
I'm gonna take one more comment, then I think we may have to push this on. Go ahead, Barbara. Olga, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could table this to next time.
Yeah,
It's gonna-
good idea, it's gonna take a while.
But
I would
also,
table it, you're right.
but also the amount should be changed because it was 2,500.
Yeah, well, that you
Yes.
should bring up to Dom's
When's the
attention.
next meeting?
That's the
Okay,
next
hold on a
question.
minute, I have a couple
July
things.
11th.
One thing I wanna point your attention to in red, no UCO members or committee members are permitted to contact a contractor. The bylaw had said call, he said they shouldn't call, they should email, whatever. Now, that was the only change I thought we had. But at least I want you to say, yeah, that's okay.
Excuse me, may I ask why? What if somebody wants to call independently? They don't have to say that they're representing anybody, they just want a general idea. What would it cost to do 5,000 feet of concrete or whatever?
Okay, we're gonna hold it, we're gonna hold it. The discussion is good, I'm not saying no, but I look, you're as tired as I am.
When is your next meeting?
Hold it, I have a couple other things to
Oh,
say.
okay.
When you take this home with you, to save time, because we really wanna get through this, and I know there are people waiting for their petitions to be looked at. Look at the advisory committee. Look at, that's there, that's the next one. The draft language for advisory committee. And what you have, I wrote down for you, the first section is what's in the bilateral. So you can compare it. And then I give you the section on committees where advisory will go. And then on page 2 of that, of advisory committee, you see the proposed language. Please look at that before you come back. And the last one, I hope, please God, it's the last one, no. Look at amendment, the next one, the next page is Article 11 amendment. And look at Article 15, housing. So that when you come in next month, oh, wait a minute, there's another big one next time. Conflict of interest is the last one, do you all see it? On the last page of the packet?
Yeah, that's a new one.
Conflict of interest,
I never see that.
do you all have it? It's new.
Yeah, I have it, yeah.
We got legal opinion, but I want you to read it before you come in so you can vote. So you can
Oh, yes.
discuss.
We also have older housing.
Yes, that's right,
Yes,
yes,
an older
before.
housing,
the
right.
page before. Housing,
Well, conflict's very important.
okay, now somebody just said, when is the next one? On the agenda, it says the next meeting is July 11th. It's every second Tuesday of the month. So we're gonna push the rest of this off. We
Okay, so
wanna
it's all
really,
debate.
please try to look at those last
I
four,
got it down.
because guess what? That's it. But we have those last ones I just asked you to look at, that's it. What happens next is that we do a pass-through of everything. And now the question is, we said we were gonna talk about timeline and to completion, and we were gonna talk about the attorney. Who is the attorney? How do we select an attorney and what do we do, David?
Alright, I know there are folks that use terms like Rod Tennyson is over the hill. Rod Tennyson is no older than most of the people in this room. And guess who wrote all these bylaws and articles and documents? Rod Tennyson. No attorney in Florida knows more about our documents than does Rod Tennyson. And I don't see any reason to go looking for very expensive attorneys when Rod will do this work at $155 an hour.
And remember that, yes, and you could end up paying $250, $350
Easily.
and much more. But anyway, what he is going to do is look at what we did, not change any of it, just come back and tell us whether there's anything that we did that will bump into the law, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
He's only gonna look at the legality of what we are
Legality, right.
proposing.
He may make suggestions, but his job will be to check the compliance with statute. And he will look for legal inconsistencies. He's very good at that.
Does that help anybody feel better or not?
Doesn't make me feel better. Because as much as consistencies with the law, you have to consider whether the bylaws are protecting the residents as a whole. That's
Shouldn't
what
we
you
do
have to
that?
look at.
Shouldn't we be doing that really?
Yeah, we
should
should,
be.
but sometimes we don't do it, we're not doing it. I see many instances in the bylaws that have been changed, which I can't mention right now, where they don't favor the residents, they favor maybe individual groups. So I think that we have to
Well,
consider
in
the
the
residents.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Okay.
interrupt. At the end, when we do the pass-through, you can bring that up.
I will, I will.
You can bring that
I
up,
will,
you really
because I only
can.
got involved in this in the middle of it.
Well,
I wasn't here for the beginning.
right, we've been up, yeah, that's okay,
We're gonna go through everything.
we're going through everything. I think it is our job to protect the residents. Who speaks better for the residents than those of us, most of whom are association presidents or other? But anyway, I sense, do you disagree with this also as a member?
I disagree with Rod, is that what you're talking about?
Okay, let's hold it till next time, okay? Let's hold it.
I couldn't hear that.
David?
What did you
Yeah.
say?
I couldn't hear what you said there at the end.
She doesn't agree with Rod Tennyson.
That's another
Oh.
meeting,
Thank
I
God.
think.
Another meeting, I think.
Are we is July 11th, is that gonna be our last meeting?
No.
Can't say that.
Unfortunately, no.
No,
First of all, let me
that's
give you a kind of
Okay.
a frame. The
I mean-
goal is to get done as soon as we can, but we have to make all the corrections
Mhm.
that we've just discussed, and you gotta review and make sure you're comfortable. We have to finish the ones we didn't get to, the 3 or 4 that I've just asked you to review for next time. And then we have to do a pass-through of everything to see if we wanna reconsider. I think we're looking at 2 meetings. Worst case scenario could go 3.
3 meetings.
3 meetings?
I think so.
So let's say 3 more meetings, that gives us,
You also have those bylaws that you have to go over that was submitted too.
Oh,
That
yes,
is- yeah, but
yeah,
that's
right.
right.
The
So
petition,
that's
Petition, the
after
petition.
you're gonna
The
go
petition.
through?
The petition.
that's a question.
Because if they are decided that some of them, let's say one of them you say, let's say the committee says they're good, one of them, then it has to be inserted into the bylaw. So you can't run through a whole bylaw until you vet those out.
Well, wait, hold on. As I understand it, if we agree to adopt one of these bylaws, if we like it well enough, we can propose it. Otherwise, it's gotta get petitioned, it's gotta go to officers, it's gotta go to executive board, it's gotta go to delegate assembly, unless we decide to adopt it. And I have the list that Olga gave us, if we want to, I'll give it to the committee, and if anybody says to me, to us, I want to propose that we discuss it.
So you're gonna chop on it, in other words, that's what
And-
I
We
mean.
still have to move it along. Even if we approve it.
But do we do that before we put what we've already done through for
Before the final, I think you have to do
You
before
have
your
to.
final
We may have to
approval of bylaws.
Betty,
I'm with your conflict of interest here. This is a very broad area because it can encompass an awful lot of things. And I think that has to be defined.
which
Well,
one?
we're gonna do
The last
conflict of
one.
in- the committee conflict of interest.
Relationship with conflict of interest.
Oh, that's what we're gonna talk about.
I mean,
Next
bottom
time.
line is, for instance, the current situation we have with broadband that has been approved.
That's gonna be next month,
Pardon?
next
Next
month they're discussing.
We said we were gonna push that to
They're
next
pushing
month.
it till next month.
Okay, but I mean, that really has to be defined. If I happen to have stock in a certain
Yes,
company,
I'll second
sure, I'm
it.
gonna propose that company. I as an individual, if I'm on the committee, of course I'm gonna propose it, I'm benefiting by it. Does that mean I have to recluse myself?
We're gonna talk about that,
We'll talk
shall
about
we?
that.
We'll talk about that next time.
I don't have broadband, by the way.
Right now, the mission for this committee, and I know you wanna do a motion to adjourn, and I'll let you, but the mission of this committee is to finish the ones we started editing today. That's housing, that's conflict of interest, that's whatever else it is. And then it's to do a pass through of everything we have. And then take a look at any suggestions that have been submitted and see if anybody wants to move to discuss them.
And then go out for a drink.
Yeah, several
To celebrate.
motions, and then, but also next week, I wanna discuss the attorney. Next month, please, God, not next week. And then discuss the attorney. Is everybody comfortable with that? Thank you, you are the best. A motion to adjourn?
Second.
Jackie, I don't know, motion to adjourn. Ruth,
Doesn't matter.
you are amazing, you are fantastic.
You are fantastic. You are a fantastic camper.
You-
Anybody driving toward Chatham?
Isn't she? Fantastic.
Thank you, but you guys are wonderful. I do a good job.
So it should be on one, but.
Yes.
To get a special certificate.
What's even in the sky?
Yes, all, but they're side pieces. You're the best. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Oh, everybody nobody wants to do it. Thank you for coming. No, I think it's Friday morning.
Marker for okay, yellow marker.
I have to go get this.
The answer is yes.
You must spend hours. You're getting
I do. But we're doing fine. Everybody is very kind to each other. And maybe some people, wanna talk more, but what are we gonna do?